Obviously, Jian Chen discovered that the unkempt old man was paying attention to him, but he was in no situation to think too much about it. His face was extremely stern. This was because he saw with a single glance that the teleportation formation across plains in the imperial capital of the Violet Wind Empire had also been sealed up, enveloped by a formation. The light in Jian Chen's eyes flickered as he paid attention to the surroundings. There were several regional teleportation formations within the imperial capital of the Violet Wind Empire. However, there was only a single teleportation formation that could take people across plains, and it was the one that the unkempt old man guarded. The Celestial Sword Saint said that I could leave through a teleportation formation in the imperial capital of the Violet Wind Empire. Is this it? In the end, Jian Chen still stared at the teleportation formation up ahead. After a moment of hesitation, he approached it slowly. Stop! This place is forbidden. No one can approach here. Before Jian Chen had even gotten close, the soldiers who guarded the surroundings all stopped him and Kai Ya. Move! The unkempt old man walked over lazily and dismissed the soldiers in the surroundings. He looked at Jian Chen and Kai Ya with interest. What do you two kiddos want? Asked the unkempt old man. He seemed like a beggar in his current shape, possessing none of a primordial realm expert's bearing. Senior, we want to use the teleportation formation. May I ask if you can allow us? Jian Chen clasped his fist. In reality, all people who wanted to use teleportation formations between planes would be treated with great suspicion at such a sensitive time. Jian Chen had only been so straightforward with the unkempt old man because he trusted the Celestial Sword Saint. Who was the Celestial Sword Saint? He was a terrifying existence that did not even fear the heaven-splitting ancestor. Since he had said that the teleportation formation in the Violet Wind Empire could take him away, it must have been the truth. However, Jian Chen was uncertain about whether the Celestial Sword Saint was referring to the one before him. However, he had no more time to search for a second teleportation formation with the situation he currently faced. Moreover, he had already prepared for the worst when he asked this question. Once the situation felt off, he would immediately rip open space and flee into the spatial crack with Kai Ya. He had reached the Sword Immortal realm now. His strength had increased drastically, so he could unleash even more power from the 9-star Sword of Heavenly Ways. Ripping open space was nothing too difficult for him now. You want to leave the desolate plain through a teleportation formation. The unkempt old man was clearly surprised when he heard Jian Chen's question. He looked at Jian Chen with a rather strange gaze as he felt somewhat astonished. He wondered, this brat should know that all the teleportation formations between planes are closed, but he just has to come to where I am. Does he know that he can leave through here? Or is this all just a coincidence? But this brat sure is a troublemaker. Wherever he goes, there will be no peace. He went to the Neptunian Divine Palace and half of the Supreme God Kings died in the end. He came to the desolate plain and ended up upheaving the entire place, even provoking the Blood Tier Grand Exalt. If he continues like this, when will the desolate plain quieten down? Since he wants to leave, I'll just let him leave. Only when he leaves will the desolate plain regain peace. As soon as he thought of that, the unkempt old man smiled evilly. He looked at Jian Chen strangely and sniggered. It's not impossible for you to use the teleportation formation. It's just that now is not your usual time, so the price will obviously be slightly higher than usual. Kid, I wonder if you can afford the price. Jian Chen immediately became relieved when he heard that the teleportation formation was available. However, he did not lower his guard at all. Then state your price. The unkempt old man slowly extended 5 fingers and smiled. 505 colored divine crystals per person. There are 2 of you, so 1,005 colored divine crystals in total. Jian Chen frowned when he heard that. The price was over 10 times more than normal. However, his priority right now was to leave the desolate plain and flee from this place of danger, so he was no longer in the position to care about his wealth. He just happened to have 1,005 colored divine crystals in his space ring. He had obtained them from the Neptunian Divine Palace in the past. Impressive, impressive. It looks like you're pretty rich since you can really take out 1,005 colored divine crystals. Go over. The unkempt old man played around with the space ring that Jian Chen had passed over before waving at the teleportation formation behind him casually. There were no pulses of energy, nor was there any pressure. However, with a casual wave from the unkempt old man, a crack silently appeared within the powerful formation that sealed up the teleportation formation. It happened to be just big enough for two people to pass through. Jian Chen failed to see the secrets behind this. He only thought that the old man had used a secret technique to open the lock. He silently sensed around, and after confirming that there were no dangers, he quickly made his way over to the teleportation formation with Kai Ya. Very soon, the teleportation formation was activated, and under the illumination of intense white light, Jian Chen and Kai Ya vanished. However, right when they vanished, the unkempt old man who watched over the teleportation formation seemed to sense something. A sliver of interest immediately appeared in his eyes as he stared at the empty teleportation formation with shining eyes. He was secretly amazed. Gusta's fleshly core is actually on that brat. It's impossible for the blood tier Grand Exalt to not sense the presence of the fleshly core when his will descended, but he just didn't take it away. The unkempt old man's gaze suddenly became extremely profound as he wondered. It looks like this brat is even more complicated than I imagined him to be. It's just a pity that I can't peer into anything about him. Strange, truly strange. Within an estate in the central region of the desolate plain. Adriana. Let's go. Our god clan really can't help Jian Chen at all. The hall elder of the god clan, Tyne, sighed gently and powerlessly. Elder, is there really nothing else we can do? Adriana still did not give up. She wanted to try everything. Tyne sighed gently. Jian Chen is far too reckless. He has no idea just how great a trouble he has made. He has destroyed the Blood Tier Grand Exalt's arrangements and drawn out the Blood Tier Grand Exalt. You should be able to imagine the severity of the trouble that Jian Chen has made to personally alarm the Blood Tier Grand Exalt. The Blood Tier Grand Exalt won't spare him. Tyne looked towards the direction of the underground cavern deeply and continued. Perhaps Jian Chen has already been taken away by the Blood Tier Grand Exalt. Once he ends up in the hands of a Grand Exalt, even the First Majesty of the Heavenly Palace of Bixing can't save him. After confirming that there was nothing she could do to revert the situation, the Hall Elder of the God Clan charged off into outer space with Adriana, leaving the desolate plain. Across the vast desolate plain, none of the peak experts knew that Jian Chen had already left silently, having taken a teleportation formation right under their watch. When the unkempt old man activated the teleportation formation that he watched over, no one on the entire plain had sensed it, including the important members of the Violet Wind Empire. Even the soldiers who guarded the teleportation formation's surroundings were no exception. From when the unkempt old man struck a deal to when Jian Chen left the desolate plain, the minds of all the soldiers had blanked out. Only when Jian Chen left and the teleportation formation settled down did they recover. The peak experts hovered above the huge pit in the central region of the desolate plain. All their hearts weighed heavily. They did not know how to handle the flesh and blood they had collected. I've collected quite a lot of this ancient great ape's flesh and blood. Since I don't know what to do with it, I might as well hand it all up to Master and let Master decide, Tucson thought. As soon as he remembered that he had the support of the heaven-splitting ancestor, someone only a step away from Grand Exalt, he became much more composed. Based on his thoughts, the person behind destroying the Blood Tier Grand Exalt's arrangements was Jian Chen. He only took part in the fight for a portion of the blood and flesh. Even if the Blood Tier Grand Exalt decided to investigate, he would not hold much blame. With his master's status, he only needed to negotiate with the Blood Tier Grand Exalt, and it should all be resolved easily. The Blood Tier Grand Exalt left soon after he came. He must have known that it was Jian Chen who destroyed his arrangements. Jian Chen is difficult for us to find, but no matter how skilled he is, he cannot hide from the Blood Tier Grand Exalt, thought Tucson. The light in his eyes flickered for a while before he decided to give up on the search for Jian Chen. He returned to the Heaven-Splitting clan. He needed to report to the events that happened on the desolate plain to the Heaven-Splitting ancestor. He also needed to hand over the flesh and blood he had collected immediately. On the Lone Heaven Plain, one of the four famed heavenly kings of the Lone Heaven Plain, the Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance, sat on the peak of the Azure Brilliance mountain. He had already assumed his human form. His wore azure robes, and his face was sunken. Cold light flickered through his frigid eyes. At this moment, the Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance coughed gently. With that, droplets of blood flew out from his throat. His originally pale face became even paler. Celestial Sword Saint, I will have my revenge one day. I will return it 1,000-fold. You better not let me find the opportunity. The Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance growled as killing intent surged in his eyes, almost condensing into something tangible. His resentment and urge to kill the celestial sword saint could no longer climb any higher. Heavenly King, we have already found Jian Chen's origins. At this moment, a voice rang out from below the Azure Brilliance mountain. It was filled with respect. The Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance suddenly vanished. He appeared before a burly middle-aged man like he had teleported as a bloodthirsty light flickered in his eyes. He said coldly, "Speak." "Yes, Heavenly King." The burly man lowered his head and said politely, "I've undertaken a detailed investigation and have confirmed that Jian Chen comes from the Cloud Plain. He has established a clan in a remote location in the southern region. They're called the Tian Yuan clan." The Cloud Plain. The Tian Yuan clan. The Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance smiled darkly as he said with killing intent, "Very good, very good. I've finally found out your origins. I'll go and destroy the Tian Yuan clan right now." Heavenly King, the Tian Yuan clan is only an unimportant clan. There's no need for the Heavenly King to personally take action for a small matter like this. Leave it to us. The burly man smiled in an attempt to suck up. "No." The Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance called out, "I want to personally take action against the Tian Yuan clan." The Azure Peng King was known for holding on to grudges in the saints' world. He would take revenge for the slightest grievances. No matter how weak someone was, they would face his revenge once they offended him. Moreover, during the years he spent hunting down Jian Chen, he had suffered greatly several times, so his killing intent towards Jian Chen became even more powerful. Even the Tian Yuan clan behind Jian Chen had become a target for his destruction. With a flash of azure light, the Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance vanished. He had left the lone heaven plane with indescribable speed, heading towards the Cloud Plane. Within a majestic divine hall in the Taoist sect of divine sound on the Skyfire Plane, a middle-aged man who seemed to be in his 40s sat with a woman. They gave off tremendous pressures. They were two of the four ancestors of the Taoist sect of divine sound, Lian Qi and Gu Na. They were both chaotic primes. Below Lian Qi and Gu Na stood a man and woman side by side. They stood slightly bowed. The woman wore purple clothes and possessed supreme beauty. Her dark pupils seemed to hold a certain type of charm, enough to enchant people and suck away souls with a single glance. The woman was Shangguan Mu. The young man beside Shangguan Mu'er was the Taoist sect of divine sound's proudest prodigy, Jun Kong. Jun Kong was still extremely handsome and possessed a graceful bearing. He was a rare handsome man within the Taoist sect of divine sound, stealing the hearts of countless female disciples. However, his complexion was unnaturally pale. He seemed rather frail. Back in the Neptunian Divine Palace, Jun Kong had been devastated and beaten to a pulp by Ming Dong. His injuries were so severe that he almost had to abandon his body. However, as Jun Kong possessed quite the status in the Taoist sect of divine sound, his master, Lian Qi of the Four Ancestors, had used many medicines and heavenly resources regardless of the price to heal him. However, he had only recovered to 80%. The most surprising thing was that after what he went through in the Neptunian Divine Palace, Jun Kong seemed to witness life and death. After rising and falling, he underwent a huge metamorphosis. He seemed to comprehend the concept of life and death. The concept of life and death was not a part of the laws of the world. Instead, it was one of the three ultimate concepts recorded within the Taoist sect of divine sound. The three ultimate concepts had been created by the peak expert of the Taoist sect of divine sound, the third ancestor, during their most glorious time. They were the heart of the demonic and divine, the heart of life and death, and the heart of the myriad. No one had managed to comprehend the three great concepts after the third ancestor. Now that Jun Kong had undergone a great upheaval, his mind transformed, and he seemed to comprehend the heart of life and death out of the three great concepts. As a result, the four ancestors of the Taoist sect of divine sect placed great focus on him, basically shielding him like a treasure. Mu'er, the artifact spirit of the zither of the demonic cry, has already awakened. You must have received the true inheritance of the two tunes of the demonic and divine. However, if you want to grasp the two tunes of the demonic and divine created by the third ancestor in the past, just the legacy alone is nowhere enough. You need to comprehend the concept of the demonic and divine, and understand the heart of the demonic and divine. Only then will you be able to truly unleash the power of the two tunes of the demonic and divine. Jun Kong, you only seem to have touched on the boundary with your concept of life and death. You still need some time before you fully grasp it. Whether it's the heart of the demonic and divine or the heart of life and death, They're both a part of the three ultimate concepts created by the third ancestor. As a result, we have decided to take the two of you to where the third ancestor cultivated in the past. Under the influence of the third ancestor's presence, some incomplete concepts have lingered around. We hope that cultivating there will assist you in comprehending the concepts. The two of you are the future of our Taoist sect of divine sound. Whether we can stand at the apex of the saints' world and become the greatest organization on the Skyfire plane will be up to the two of you, Lian Qi of the Four Ancestors said to Shangguan Mu'er and Jun Kong sternly. Lian Qi, are you thinking of pairing Jun Kong and Mu'er together by sending them where the third ancestor cultivated in the past? Gu Na of the Four Ancestors asked slowly after Shangguan Mu'er and Jun Kong departed. Lian Qi nodded but said nothing in reply. After a moment of slight hesitation, Gu Na continued. But you know about Mu'er's situation. She has a husband, and her husband is still alive. Lian Qi sighed gently when he heard that. You're talking about Jian Chen, right? I've heard about him lately as well. He has caused quite the disturbance on the desolate plain. From the rumors, he is indeed extremely outstanding. If Jun Kong had not comprehended the concept of life and death, he never would have been his opponent. But Jian Chen sure knows how to create trouble. Look at him. He's a mere god king. Yet what has he turned the desolate plain into? How much trouble has he caused? And how many peak experts has he offended? If Mu'er retains her relationship with him, nothing good will come out of it for her. Instead, she'll be drawn into the whole fiasco. Even our Taoist sect of divine sound will suffer as a result. Lian Qi paused. He looked at Gu Na deeply and continued. Mu'er has inherited the third ancestor's legacy. I won't go into detail about the significance that holds for our Taoist sect of divine sound. As a result, we have to watch over her and protect her for the sake of her growth. Right now, Mu'er already faces a lurking danger, Jian Chen. As a result, if it's possible, we have to make them separate. Moreover, you've seen Jun Kong's infatuation towards Mu'er as well. If Jun Kong can become a couple with Mu'er, he will be fulfilled, and it'll be of great help to his comprehension of the concept of life and death. If that doesn't happen, Jun Kong's mind might collapse. It might destroy him. I'm not pairing the two of them together just to make Mu'er leave Jian Chen. I'm also thinking for Jun Kong. Gu Na sighed gently after hearing Lian Qi's words. She slowly paced outside and looked at the clouds. She sighed and said, I think it'll be difficult. I can already see that Mu'er has no good impression of Jun Kong. Even if she does, she only treats him as a senior, and this relationship isn't even deep. Lian Qi arrived behind Gu Na. He extended his arms and hugged her from behind. His face was gentle as he said softly, If you think about the past, you had no good impression of me either, but in the end, aren't we still together? No one can really be certain of what the future holds. Ever since war erupted with the Tian Empire's attempt to conquer the entire Cloud Plain, the entire plain had fallen into constant upheaval. Wars were constantly raged. Many cultivators died as a result of the battles. Although the Tian Empire had been eliminated from the Cloud Plain, the four ancient organizations that they had worked with in the past were unaffected. Ever since the Tian Empire's destruction, the four ancient organizations had devoured their remaining forces and formed the Four Symbols Alliance. They occupied the southern region of the Cloud Plain and set up base there as a military alliance, engaging in an extended war against the Righteous Alliance led by the Heaven's Link Peak. Several years ago, many battles of various sizes had erupted between the two alliances. Their peak experts had clashed in outer space time and time again. Although the Righteous Alliance led by the Heaven's Link Peak had more peak experts than the Four Symbols Alliance, all of them were selfish and were unwilling to pay too great of a price. They were unwilling to bear the risk of becoming injured or even dying, so they never destroyed the Four Symbols Alliance. As a result, the Four Symbols Alliance and the Righteous Alliance became locked in an extended stalemate. More as time went on, the Righteous Alliance seemed to realize that destroying the Four Symbols Alliance would not be an easy task. As a result, the decision-makers of the Righteous Alliance gradually recognized the Four Symbols Alliance's existence. The clashes between the peak experts gradually lessened. In particular, a chaotic prime from the Four Symbols Alliance had successfully broken through to Grand Prime after remaining at the 9th heavenly layer for over 1,000,000 years. With that, the peak powers of the two alliances basically seemed to reach a secret ceasefire agreement. Of course, this ceasefire was only between the peak powers of the two alliances. The various smaller conflicts between the people below them never stopped. Naturally, during this upheaval of the entire cloud plain, the Pingtian Empire that had been elevated to the status of ancient empire recently had remained an exception to all this. Now, the entire Pingtian Empire was protected by a powerful layer of formations. The formation operated by sucking in energy from all directions, forming a transparent barrier. It served as the ultimate protection of the Pingtian Empire. The entire southern region of the Cloud Plain had fallen under the control of the Four Symbols Alliance. The past ruler of the southern region, the Blood Sun Empire, had become their subsidiary. The Pingtian Empire was the only exception. This was all because the Pingtian Empire possessed a ninth heavenly layer chaotic prime. A single ninth heavenly layer chaotic prime was enough for the Four Symbols Alliance and the Righteous Alliance to treat with caution, let alone the one in the Pingtian Empire that possessed unmatched battle prowess. It's time for us to show the Pingtian Empire our might. On this day, an ancient voice rang out from a majestic divine hall in the headquarters of the Four Symbols Alliance. 5 people sat within the divine hall. They varied in age and appearance, but they all seemed dignified. The 5 of them were the peak powers of the Four Symbols Alliance. There's no need to worry about the Emperor of the Pingtian Empire. What we do have to worry about is that Ming Xie with unknown origins. He's very powerful. Among the chaotic primes of our alliance, there's no one who's his opponent. They've all been repelled. Ming Xie is the only obstruction from us conquering the Pingtian Empire. We have to gain complete control over the southern region, and we can't let any organizations that don't belong to us exist. In the past, we could not spare any effort to deal with the Pingtian Empire because of the Righteous Alliance, but now that we have been freed up, we have to deal with the Pingtian Empire. That's right. The Pingtian Empire must fall under our control, and Ming Xie must join our Four Symbols Alliance so that we can expand our alliance's strength. If they don't yield, then they must face death. We cannot let any potential problems linger. The 5 experts of the Four Symbols Alliance all expressed that they had to conquer the Pingtian Empire. I'll personally take action this time, said a burly middle-aged man. He basically growled with bloodthirst and viciousness. The middle-aged man was called Zhang Hu. He was the Grand Prime of the Four Symbols Alliance who had broken through a year ago. His breakthrough had further consolidated the status of the Four Symbols Alliance. Before long, Zhang Hu traveled off to the Pingtian Empire aggressively with a group of experts from the Four Symbols Alliance. He was ready to destroy the empire if they did not yield. A huge barrier hung in the sky, forming a hemisphere that enveloped the entire Pingtian Empire. Vast quantities of origin energy gathered above the barrier, forming an invisible swirl as the barrier absorbed it all. This origin energy provided the barrier with energy constantly. The barrier was so powerful that it could remain standing even after taking several attacks from ninth heavenly layer chaotic primes. It was so powerful that it was even on par with the protective barrier of the past ruler of the southern region, the Blood Sun Empire. However, this barrier was only the second most powerful within the current Pingtian Empire. The most powerful barrier was the formation around the Tian Yuan clan in the Dong'an province, one of the 36 provinces of the Pingtian Empire. The protective formation around the Tian Yuan clan had been cast down by the divine general of the heavenly palace of Bixing, Ming Xie, under Ming Dong's request. It took him half a month to complete. It could both attack and defend, and even ninth heavenly layer chaotic primes could do nothing to it. This Ming Xie sure is skilled. He has actually cast down such a powerful formation. The materials you need for a formation at this level isn't something any regular expert can afford, commented Zhang Hu of the Four Symbols Alliance. He had arrived outside the barrier of the Pingtian Empire with his group of experts. He hovered above the barrier and stared at the Tian Yuan clan below. Whether he could make the Pingtian Empire yield to the Four Symbols Alliance would depend on the Tian Yuan clan of the Dong'an province. Why have you come, people of the Four Symbols Alliance? As soon as Zhang Hu's group arrived, a white-robed, somewhat scholarly middle-aged man silently appeared. Even though Zhang Hu had become a Grand Prime, having reached a whole new level, the middle-aged man showed no fear at all. He directly passed through the barrier and arrived outside. The middle-aged man was the divine general who always accompanied Ming Dong. Ming Dong referred to him as Uncle Ming. Ming Xie, you should know why I've come. Our Four Symbols Alliance has already grown impatient. I'll give you one last chance. Are you going to yield or face destruction? Zhang Hu's gaze was piercing as he cut right to the chase. Ming Xie was not angered at all. He said calmly, "Isn't the current situation of your Four Symbols Alliance all right? Why must you insist on getting in the way of the Tian Yuan clan? In other words, you won't yield?" Zheng Hu's face gradually sank. The Tian Yuan clan won't belong to any side. Moreover, whether it's your Four Symbols Alliance or the Righteous Alliance, none of you have the power or right to make the Tian Yuan clan yield, Ming Xie said seriously. His voice contained undisguised disdain towards the Four Symbols Alliance. Although the Tian Yuan clan was founded by Jian Chen, it had already been transformed into the home of the Ninth Majesty of the Heavenly Palace of Bisheng. If the Tian Yuan clan yielded, would that not mean the Ninth Majesty had yielded? Let alone the measly Four Symbols Alliance on the Cloud Plane, there was no organization across the entire Saints world that could make the Ninth Majesty of the Heavenly Palace of Bisheng yield. Since you won't yield, then neither the Ping Tian Empire nor the Tian Yuan clan needs to continue existing, Zhang Hu said seriously as powerful killing intent surged from him, flooding towards Ming Xie. Immediately, the space around Ming Xie creaked. The killing intent from Zhang Hu was so powerful that it managed to crack the space around Ming Xie. At the same time, the presences of all the experts who had come with Zhang Hu's sword. They were brimming with killing intent. All of them were ready. They only needed an order from Zhang Hu, and they would strike out with lightning speed and destroy the Ping Tian Empire. Do it! Destroy the Ping Tian Empire and the Tian Yuan clan. At this moment, Zhang Hu called out. The laws of a Grand Prime descended, and the origin energy in the surroundings surged wildly. Ming Xie became stern, but it was only stern. He did not fear Zhang Hu, who had recently broken through to Grand Prime. The battle was on the verge of erupting. But at this moment, a pressure several times more terrifying than Zhang Hu suddenly descended. The sky above the southern region darkened. The celestial bodies vanished, replaced by dazzling, azure light. The appearance of the pressure caused Zhang Hu's face to suddenly change. Immediately, he stopped the attack he was about to launch towards Ming Xie and looked at the sky in shock. The experts from the Four Symbols Alliance who had come with Zhang Hu paled in fright before the pressure. They all looked at the sky in fright and unease. A colossal azure pung silently appeared beyond the cloud plane. He stood as great as a planet, basically blocking out the sky. A pair of azure eyes flickered with cold light as they stared at the cloud plane from outer space. The Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance. It's the Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance. Why has he come to the cloud plane? Zhang Hu immediately recognized the giant pung, and his face changed drastically. The Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance was renowned throughout the Saints' world for being troublesome. Not many peak experts dared to offend him in the entire Saints' world. Yet now, the Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance had descended upon the southern region of the cloud plane. It filled Zhang Hu with much unease. The southern region was the territory of their Four Symbols Alliance after all. At the same time, the four other peak experts in the headquarters of the Four Symbols Alliance arrived outside the Divine Hall. They stared at the colossal figure in outer space, and they all became extremely stern. All the peak experts of the Righteous Alliance gathered together on the Heaven's Link Peak. They also stared at the huge shadow in the sky sternly. The light in their eyes flickered as they became unsettled. It's the Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance. Why has he come to our cloud plane? Surely he wasn't invited by the remnants of the Tian Empire to deal with us, right? If that really is the case, none of us will be able to withstand a single strike from him. The Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance is on a whole different level compared to the Heavenless Demon Exalt. Impossible. You know exactly how proud and aloof the Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance is. How is it possible for the Tian Empire to invite him with their measly heritage? The peak experts of the Righteous Alliance discussed furiously as their hearts weighed heavily. The colossal shadow in the sky made all of them feel uneasy. At this moment, a huge set of talons tore through the clouds. The talons were even more colossal than mountains, possessing great power. They shone with chilling cold light as they ripped through space, falling towards the Ping Tian Empire below. The colossal talons became larger and larger as they approached. They crushed the sky, enveloping the entire territory of the Ping Tian Empire. The Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance actually wants to destroy the Ping Tian Empire. Quick retreat. Zhang Hu immediately became stunned when he saw the claw's target. The Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance has actually come for the Ping Tian Empire? The peak experts on the Heaven's Link Peak were greatly surprised as well. Naturally, they were familiar with the Ping Tian Empire. It was the only organization not under the Four Symbols Alliance's control in the southern region. However, they struggled to imagine just how the Pingtian Empire had provoked a peak expert like the Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance. He was a terrifying figure who could stand invincible on the entire cloud plane. Azure Peng King, stop! A deafening voice rang out from the southern region. Ming Xie surged into the sky with a tremendous presence. He was furious. The energy around him churned like tidal waves as the power of laws revolved around him. Against the infamous Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance, Ming Xie showed no fear. He used a god-tier battle skill and struck out. Immediately, the pressure of the world crashed down. Ming Xie struck out with his full strength. With the might of the world, the god-tier battle skill collided with the Azure Peng King's huge claw and erupted with a deafening boom. In the sky, space formed web-like cracks as storms of energy wreaked havoc in the surroundings. However, Ming Xie's attack failed to harm the Azure Peng King at all. Instead, he became the Azure Peng King's main target. Immediately, the trajectory of the Azure Peng King's talons changed, directly crushing down towards Ming Xie. Before they had even arrived, the terrifying killing intent had frozen the space around Ming Xie. Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance, how dare you attempt to kill me? Ming Xie bellowed out furiously, and dazzling golden light enveloped him. A set of shining impressive armor appeared on his body. The armor was a defensive god artifact. It seemed to have fused with Ming Xie's body. His presence immediately grew after he donned the armor. However, Ming Xie was only a 9th heavenly layer chaotic prime. Compared to the infamous Azure Peng King, an insurmountable difference still existed. Even wearing the god artifact was not enough for him to stand against the Azure Peng King. Of course, that was not the main use of the armor. When the armor appeared, the talons reaching towards Ming Xie came to a forceful stop. They froze in the air. The golden armor was like a protective charm. As it enveloped Ming Xie with dazzling light, the Azure Peng King truly did not dare to let his astonishing strike land. Be it the Righteous Alliance or the Four Symbols Alliance, all the peak experts were paying attention to the Pingtian Empire. They did not miss a single thing happening there. As a result, when Ming Xie donned the armor, and the Azure Peng King's attack came to a halt, the peak experts saw it all. However, when they noticed Ming Xie's armor, all of their hearts beat uncontrollably, and their faces changed. They were all ancient existences. Who knows how many years they had been alive? They were insightful, so they immediately recognized what Ming Xie's armor represented. It's the specially made armor from the Heaven Palace of Bisheng. He's actually a divine general from the Heavenly Palace of Bisheng. How is that possible? The Pingtian Empire is actually hiding a divine general from the Heavenly Palace of Bisheng. A 9th heavenly layer chaotic prime divine general. A divine general like that is someone with quite the status within the Heavenly Palace of Bisheng. But why has a divine general of the Heavenly Palace of Bisheng come to our cloud plane? All the peak experts of the two alliances lost their composure when Ming Xie's true identity was revealed. In particular, the expressions of all the peak experts from the Four Symbols Alliance became ugly. They were filled with lingering fear. As soon as they thought about how they had demanded Ming Xie yield, or they would execute him, their hearts grew a little cold. What kind of organization was the Heavenly Palace of Bisheng? It was an organization that truly stood at the apex of the Saints' world, a colossal entity that could not be shaken. Even without the Anata Grand Exalt, the First Majesty alone was enough to stand supreme. Even though their Four Symbols Alliance was one of the most powerful organizations on the cloud plane, they were no different from child's play before the Heavenly Palace of Bisheng. Why would it be like this? Zhang Wu had already become stunned. He stared at the armor on Ming Xie blankly. He was stupefied. His mind stopped working. By now, Ming Xie no longer paid any more attention to Zhang Hu and the others who had come with hostile intentions. He bathed in golden light as he shot off into outer space as a streak of light and faced the Azure Peng King. Divine General of the Heavenly Palace of Bisheng. Why is it you lot again? The Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance bellowed furiously in outer space. His azure eyes shone with vicious light. Clearly, he was infuriated. Previously, when he wanted to kill Ming Dong outside the Neptunian Divine Palace, he met the people from the Heavenly Palace of Bisheng and even drew out the First Majesty. In the end, he suffered heavy injuries. Now, he had come to the distant cloud plane and was just about to destroy the Tian Yuan clan founded by Jian Chen, but he came across someone from the Heavenly Palace of Bisheng again. Moreover, it was a ninth heavenly layer chaotic prime divine general. The Azure Pung King refused to accept this. He felt resentment that he could not vent. A ninth heavenly layer chaotic prime divine general possessed a certain level of status within the heavenly palace of Bishing. Although he, the heavenly king of Azure Brilliance, was unruly, he was unable to truly act recklessly and lawlessly. He knew who he could offend and who he could not. And even if he were 10 times braver, he would never dare to touch the divine general before him, as the consequences would be even more severe than offending the celestial sword saint. If worst came to worst, he would draw out the first majesty again. Azure Pung King, if you destroy the Tian Yuan clan, I, Mingdong, will destroy you. At this moment, a call rang out from below. The furious white-robed Mingdong flew out from the Tian Yuan clan. Under the watch of all the peak experts on the cloud plane, he charged into outer space fearlessly and stared at the Azure Pung King angrily. Who is this young man? How bold of him. This young man truly is ignorant to speak to the heavenly king of Azure Brilliance like that, or perhaps he has some astonishing background. This young man. I remember him. Doesn't that divine general from the heavenly palace of Bishing always follow him around? Has the divine general always been protecting this young man? Heavens! Just what is this young man's identity? When Mingdong appeared, all the peak experts on the cloud plane cried out. They fell into emotional turmoil. You want to destroy me? Just with you, an ant-like god king? The Azure Pen King was utterly angered by Mingdong's words. Intense killing intent radiated from him, freezing space and expanding towards Mingdong like a flood. Ming Xie arrived before Mingdong with a flash and blocked the Azure Pung King's killing intent. He said coldly, Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance, he does indeed have the ability. The eyes of the Azure Pung King narrowed. He stared at Mingdong with a piercing gaze for a while before looking at Ming Xie. He asked coldly, just who is he? The ninth majesty of the heavenly palace of Bishing. With that, a barrier appeared, preventing the voice from spreading. What? As soon as the Azure Pung King heard those words, his colossal body immediately tremored. He cried out, Impossible! The heavenly palace of Bishing only has 8 majesties, and some of them have even died. Where did the 9th majesty come from? Towards the end, the Azure Pung King seemed to realize something and shock filled his eyes. The heavenly palace of Bishing only had 8 majesties. This was common knowledge in the saints' world. All the experts in the saints' world knew that the Anata Grand Prime of the 7 Grand Exalts of the saints' world died over 3 million years ago. After Anata's death, it was impossible for the heavenly palace of Bishing to gain a 9th majesty. Even if the first majesty, Exin, took on a disciple, they would not have the right to become a majesty of the heavenly palace of Bishing. Naturally, the 9th majesty would only appear when the Anata Grand Prime accepted a new disciple. Chapter 2390, Deterrence, Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance. I don't think you really want to go up against our heavenly palace of Bishing, said Ming Xie. His armor shone blindingly, like a miniature sun in the dark outer space. With the support of the heavenly palace of Bishing, he felt no fear when he faced the infamous heavenly king of Azure Brilliance of the saints' world. The light in the Azure Pung King's vicious eyes flickered. He would always glance across at Mingdong. On the surface, the Azure Pung King seemed extremely composed, but he was not even remotely calm on the inside. His heart surged. He did not care about Mingdong. What he truly cared about was the significance behind the position of the 9th majesty of the heavenly palace of Bishing. It meant that the Anata Grand Prime of the 7 Grand Exalts had not died over 3 million years ago as rumored and was still alive. Azure Pung King, Jian Chen is a brother who I've gone through thick and thin with. If you dare to continue to target Jian Chen, I will never spare you in the future. Moreover, the Tian Yuan clan is my home. If you dare to destroy my home, I'll never spare you. I'll do everything I can to ask my first senior sister and my master to take action, said Mingdong. His voice was cold, and he was extremely forceful with his words. He was filled with resolution. These words left the Azure Pung King utterly furious. What was his identity? He was the heavenly king of Azure Brilliance, infamous across the entire saints' world, one of the 4 heavenly kings who reigned over the lone heaven plane. With how proud he was, the Azure Pung King immediately became filled with killing intent when he heard the disrespectful threats from a mere god king. His anger had almost set his blood on fire, and he almost lost his rationality. However, as soon as he thought about Ming Dong's identity as the ninth majesty of the heavenly palace of Bishing, he did not dare to do anything regardless of how furious he became. He deeply understood just how terrifying those grand exalts who had comprehended the laws to the limits and could interfere with their operation were. Their will could descend in any location within the saints' world. The concept of distance did not exist in the eyes of these experts across the vast saints' world. Without any exaggeration, as long as they were in the saints' world, no one would dare to kill a Grand Exalt's disciple. As long as they tried, the Grand Exalt could descend the moment they struck out. This was because Grand Exalts were the heavenly ways. They were the laws. They could reach any location in the saints' world in a single moment. They needed no traveling time. The only way to kill a Grand Exalt's disciple was to keep the Grand Exalt busy so that they could not free themselves. In reality, the few dead majesties of the heavenly palace of Bishing had all fallen on the battlefield across the major wars in history when the Unata Grand Exalt was busy with other experts of the same level. At such times, even many Grand Exalt could barely look after themselves. They would face the threat of death, so they obviously would have no energy to protect their disciples. The Azure Pung King sucked in a deep breath and made the killing intent in his heart settle. He stared at Ming Dong coldly and snorted. If it weren't for your master and first senior sister, you would only be an ant in my eyes. I wouldn't even need to take personal action to kill you. Just a breath would be enough to annihilate you. Throwing that out there, the heavenly king of Azure Brilliance shot off instantly, vanishing into the depths of outer space. In the end, he was still not bold enough to touch the Tian Yuan clan. All the peak experts from the Righteous Alliance and the Four Symbols Alliance sank into their thoughts when they saw the Azure Pung King come aggressively but leave in such a miserable fashion in the end. At that moment, they finally understood the origins of that Ming Xie, who possessed extremely astonishing battle prowess. At the same time, they realized that the speck-sized Tian Yuan clan had an astonishing support behind them. They could not eavesdrop on Ming Xie's conversation with the heavenly king of Azure Brilliance due to the formation Ming Xie had cast down. As a result, the peak experts had no idea who Ming Dong was. However, just Ming Xie's identity as a divine general of the heavenly palace of Bishing had already tied the Tian Yuan clan to the heavenly palace of Bishing. Immediately, the Tian Yuan clan's status on the cloud plane became extremely special. Ming Dong returned to the Tian Yuan clan and vanished from everyone's view. He did not ask about the matter regarding the Four Symbols Alliance at all. Ming Xie, on the other hand, stowed away his special armor and returned to his scholarly self. He returned from outer space and appeared before Zhang Hu and the others. Do you want to destroy the Ping Tian Empire? The Tian Yuan clan? Ming Xie stared at Zhang Hu calmly and asked without any particular emotions. At this moment, as Zhang Hu faced this chaotic prime who was at a lower level of cultivation, he was unable to remain as composed as before. He became rather flustered. No. It's a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding. Zhang Hu apologized with a smile as he waved his hands. He spoke politely, no longer bold enough to act with arrogance and dominance. His attitude had completely changed. Before him was a high-level divine general from the heavenly palace of Bishing. No matter how bold their Four Symbols Alliance was, they would never dare to offend him. It's all a misunderstanding. How can our Four Symbols Alliance be bold enough to destroy the Ping Tian Empire and the Tian Yuan clan? Please do not misunderstand us, sir. Afterwards, four people of various ages appeared with a few flickers. They were the four other peak experts of the Four Symbols Alliance. At that moment, all 5 peak experts had arrived near the boundary of the Ping Tian Empire. They all concealed their presences and maintained a low profile, explaining everything to Ming Xie the best they could. They were all sincere and put on no airs at all. They even gifted a space ring to him. It contained the wealth that the Four Symbols Alliance had accumulated over many years. It was extremely plentiful, and they offered it to Ming Xie willingly to express their kind intentions. Looking at the space ring, Ming Xie began to hesitate. He was clear about his identity. The space ring was more like an offering to Ming Dong than a gift to him. He did not dare to make the decision himself. Take back your space ring. I don't lack your items. Anyway, in the future, do not get in the way of any matters regarding the Tian Yuan clan, or I will never spare you. At this moment, Ming Dong's voice rang out. It was cold and forceful, showing no respect towards the Four Symbols Alliance at all. Of course not, of course not. From today onwards, the Tian Yuan clan and the Ping Tian Empire will be the most honorable guests of our Four Symbols Alliance. The people in charge of the Four Symbols Alliance all expressed their goodwill. They still did not know Ming Dong's true identity. However, after the recent events, anyone could tell that Ming Dong's origins were astonishing. After all, even this high-level divine general of the heavenly palace of Bishing had to follow his orders. The Four Symbols Alliance definitely could not offend someone like that. At the same time, the experts of the Righteous Alliance gathered together as well, gazing in the direction of the Tian Yuan clan from afar. I really never thought the Tian Yuan clan would have the heavenly palace of Bishing behind them. The young man called Ming Dong holds an extremely great status in the heavenly palace of Bishing. Is he the First Majesty's disciple? The peak experts of the Righteous Alliance discussed with one another. Oh right. The Shi clan is currently reorganizing their empire and recovering lost land. The Heaven-Cracking Sect and the Sword Sect of Four Poles have already banded together with many organizations in the northern region and have turned on the Shi Empire under the excuse of Shi Lianchue's betrayal. They've even asked for reinforcements from our God's Fallen clan, hoping we can send experts to eliminate the Shi Empire. What do you think about this? At this moment, the ancestor of the God's Fallen clan, Luo Mantian, asked for everyone's opinion. The ancestor of the Tong family, Tong Wuming, looked at Luo Mantian deeply and said steadily, I've heard that the Shi clan has a princess who's an elder in the Tian Yuan clan. She has quite the status there. Now that the Tian Yuan clan seems to be backed by the heavenly palace of Bishing, what else do you think you should do? In the past, the Shi Empire had 3 of their chaotic primes trapped. In the end, the divine general from the heavenly palace of Bishing paid a personal visit to the Shi Empire and freed the 3 of them. Luo Mantian, it goes without saying how we should treat the Shi clan, said Zhou Zhidao, the ancestor of the cosmic sect. Luo Mantian nodded understandingly after listening to the words of Tong Wuming and Zhou Zhidao. He had made up his mind. In reality, ever since he learnt the mysterious chaotic prime of the Tian Yuan clan was a divine general of the heavenly palace of Bishing, Luo Mantian had already planned on treating the Shi clan like that. He had asked this question to understand the thoughts of the others. Now, he basically knew that their thoughts aligned with his. Let's go pay a visit to the Tian Yuan clan as well, said the Lord of the Heavens Link Peak. He was ruddy and sage-like. As he hovered in the air, his white robe swayed in the wind. He really did seem quite like an immortal. Afterwards, he took a step and instantly vanished. In just a single step, he crossed an extremely vast distance. Afterwards, all the other peak experts gathered on the Heavens Link Peak followed him. All the experts of the Righteous Alliance arrived in the southern region. Immediately, the Four Symbols Alliance reacted like they were facing their mortal enemies. The powerful killing formations that surrounded the entire southern region seemed to begin operating. Don't worry, we haven't come to fight this time, the Lord of the Heavens Link Peak said calmly. Beside him, the other peak experts of the Righteous Alliance stared at Zhang Hu and the others coldly. The 5 experts of the Four Symbols Alliance all calmed down when they heard that. However, they did not dare to drop their guard. They remained vigilant, and the powerful killing formations could be activated at any time. The Lord of the Heavens Link Peak and everyone else no longer paid any more attention to the Four Symbols Alliance. They all arrived outside the barrier of the Ping Tian Empire, wanting to visit the Tian Yuan clan. However, Ming Dong showed them no respect. He did not let them in. Spare me the visit. I can't be bothered about the grievances between your Righteous Alliance and the Four Symbols Alliance. As long as you don't impinge on the Tian Yuan clan, do whatever you want. Ming Dong's voice rang out from the Tian Yuan clan, directly drifting out of the Ping Tian Empire to the ears of the experts of the Righteous Alliance. Having been denied entry, the peak experts who basically stood at the apex of the cloud plane were not angered at all. Instead, this further confirmed for them that Ming Dong's background was astonishing. This was because the chaotic prime divine general from the heavenly palace of Bishing said nothing at all. This basically indicated he completely listened to Ming Dong. At this moment, the infinite prime, the Ping Tian divine king, stood on a ceiling of the imperial palace in his dragon robes. He stared towards the boundary of the Ping Tian Empire. Behind him was a white-robed old man. He was the grand imperial protector of the Ping Tian Empire, Bo Wen. The divine king stood as straight as a sword. Vaguely, a sense of sharp sword qi seemed to radiate from him. He possessed the bearing of a sword immortal. He stood there quietly and stared into the horizon. After a long while, he sighed softly and murmured, I really never thought that Jian Chen's Tian Yuan clan would have such might today, enough to make all the peak experts famed on the cloud plane visit them. Even in my eyes, they are indomitable figures of great importance. Your Majesty, this is the glory of the empire. Today, because of the Tian Yuan clan's existence, our Ping Tian Empire is renowned across the entire cloud plane. As long as the Tian Yuan clan remains, no one will be bold enough to offend our Ping Tian Empire on the cloud plane. We are respected everywhere, said Grand Imperial Protector Bo Wan in high spirits. The glory of the empire? Indeed. Because of the Tian Empire, both the renown and status of the Ping Tian Empire has risen to a peak that even I struggle to imagine, enough to resolve all past disputes and receive respect everywhere. However, this is not what I want, said the Divine King slowly. His eyes were extremely profound. Your Majesty, why do you say that? The Grand Imperial Protector asked in confusion. After a while of thought, the Divine King said, First, times that are too peaceful will result in the gradual decline of people. With the deterrence from the Tian Yuan clan, our Ping Tian Empire won't face any conflict for a very long time. Without conflict, without the baptism of blood, the Ping Tian Empire will be like an orchid raised under special circumstances. We will die from even the smallest storm. It will be very difficult for us to become truly powerful. The Divine King paused when he reached there. Mixed feelings appeared on his face, and he continued slowly. The other reason is that I am the Divine King, the Emperor of the Ping Tian Empire. I am he who controls the empire, yet I must live under the glory of the Tian Yuan clan. As the Emperor, I feel ashamed. The Grand Imperial Protector's face changed slightly, and he immediately became flustered. He said frantically, Your Highness, there are countless organizations across the Saints' world that try to gain the protection of a larger organization so that they can exist forever. The encounter our Ping Tian Empire has experienced now is enough to make countless organizations across the Saints' world feel envious. I comprehend the way of the sword. The sword must maintain its edge, or it will rust away sooner or later. Days of peace are detrimental to my way. The Divine King paused when he reached there. At that moment, he seemed to have made a great decision. Resolve appeared in his eyes. Bo Wan, I plan on abdicating and passing on the position of Emperor to someone else. The Grand Imperial Protector was shocked when he heard the Divine King's words. He became bitter. Only after a moment of thought did he ask hoarsely, Then may I ask which prince has caught your highness' eye? The Divine King shook his head. The current Ping Tian Empire completely thrives under the shielding of the Tian Yuan clan. None of my princes are suitable for inheriting the throne. Give the throne to someone in the Tian Yuan clan. Before the Tian Yuan clan, a small organization called the Mo clan existed. The patriarch of the Mo clan, Mo Xingfeng, showed kindness to Jian Chen many years ago, while Mo Xingfeng's daughter, Mo Yan, is deeply adored by Jian Chen. The foster daughter he took in was also the princess of the Xi Empire of the northern region. I think Mo Xingfeng is the most suitable person for inheriting the throne in the Tian Yuan clan. The next day, the Divine King personally visited the Tian Yuan clan. He engaged in a secret conversation with the past patriarch of the Mo clan, Mo Xingfeng, in a secret room. He left 3 days later. Before long, the Divine King formally announced his abdication of the throne and that Mo Xingfeng would inherit it. The Grand Imperial Protector would assist with the ascension. After abdicating the throne, the Divine King completely vanished from public view. He left silently all by himself, leaving the cloud plane to wander the vast Saints' world and pave his own way. The Ping Tian Empire had formally changed hands. The past patriarch of the Mo clan now held supreme authority in the Ping Tian Empire. It had to be mentioned that having Mo Xingfeng inherit the throne was an extremely clever decision. Mo Xingfeng was not particularly powerful, but he was one of the people who had made contact with Jian Chen the earliest. Moreover, he was a founding member of the Tian Yuan clan. He held quite some status. Now that he had become the emperor of the Ping Tian Empire, the relationship between the Ping Tian Empire and Tian Yuan clan became even closer. Of course, all of these changes had been caused by the revelation of Ming Xie's identity as a divine general of the heavenly palace of Bisheng. Not only did the statuses of the Ping Tian Empire and Tian Yuan clan rise with the exposure of Ming Xie's identity, But even the Shi clan in the northern region benefited tremendously. Ever since Shi Lianxue fell under the heavenless demon Exalt's control and made the Shi Empire that once dominated the northern region stand with the Tian Empire, the Shi Empire had been dragged into the war across the entire Cloud Plain. Eventually, they started to face destruction. Afterwards, due to the combined efforts of the Heaven-Cracking Sect and the Sword Sect of Four Poles, the imperial family of the Shi Empire was almost completely devastated. They even gave up on the imperial palace, allowing their enemies to occupy it. Afterwards, the Shi Emperor and the other two chaotic primes broke free thanks to Ming Xie's assistance, so their Shi clan finally escaped danger. They truly gained the ability to contend against the Heaven-Cracking Sect and Sword Sect of Four Poles. Under the leadership of the current emperor, Shi Ziyun, the Shi Empire gradually stabilized and began to recover slowly. However, at this moment, the Heaven-Cracking Sect and the Sword Sect of Four Poles that had completely fallen out with the Shi Empire banded together with the various organizations of the northern region, using Shi Lianxue as an excuse to form a powerful coalition. They stood against the Shi Empire, doing all that they could to prevent them from uniting the northern region. As a matter of fact, the ancestors of the Heaven-Cracking Sect and the Sword Sect of Four Poles had even visited the God's Fallen clan located in the northern region in hopes of having them send experts to completely destroy the Shi Empire. However, now that Ming Xie's identity had been exposed, the God's Fallen clan and even the peak experts of the Righteous Alliance all treated the Shi Empire differently. On this day, just when the important members of the Shi Empire were racking their brains over how to recover their lost territory and recreate the empire, the two chaotic prime ancestors of the Heaven-Cracking Sect and Sword Sect of Four Poles who had always stood against them brought the leaders of the various organizations with them to the boundary of the Shi Empire. They had come to seek forgiveness and to pledge their loyalty to the Shi Empire. Ever since then, the Shi Empire had completely recovered all of its lost territory, successfully uniting the northern region again and becoming a dominating power there. As for the God's Fallen clan, although they were a peak organization and resided in the northern region as well, they behaved like hermits most of the time and did not interfere with worldly affairs. The Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance had returned to the Azure Brilliance Mountain on the Lone Heaven Plain. He took on a human form and sat at the top of the mountain with an extremely sunken face. Rage had been building up within him for a very long time now, such that it seemed like he was about to explode at any time. Jian Chen, I have already firmly remembered you. I will never forget you. The Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance gritted his teeth as he nursed many grievances. He failed to destroy the Tian Yuan clan and returned miserably instead. He was already petty and vengeful enough, so he placed all the blame on Jian Chen. It made his resentment towards Jian Chen grow even more intense. In particular, when he thought about how he was the infamous Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance, he struggled to think of any places he would not receive respect from. However, ever since he encountered Jian Chen, bad luck had been constantly with him. Not only did he fail to hunt down Jian Chen many times, but he even ended up injured time and time again. As a result, his resentment towards Jian Chen reached a devastating level. Jian Chen had almost become an inner demon for the Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance. Jian Chen, you probably would have never thought that the true master of the Anata Tower, the Anata Grand Prime, hasn't died like is rumored. You've boldly taken possession of the Anata Tower for yourself and refined it ignorantly, so you'll die to the hands of the Grand Exalt sooner or later. At this moment, the Azure Peng King thought of something and immediately smiled coldly. Hold on. However, his smile only lasted for a single moment before suddenly freezing up. The Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance's gaze became shocking. He said sternly, the Anata Grand Prime is a Grand Exalt of the Saints' world. His abilities are exceptional. As long as he's still alive, no matter where the Anata Tower is hidden, even in the many spaces in the lower worlds, he will be able to find it with a single thought with his ability as a Grand Exalt. But why does Jian Chen still possess the Anata Tower? If the Anata Grand Prime was dead, Jian Chen's possession of the Anata Tower would make sense. However, the Anata Grand Prime is clearly still alive, and he has even accepted a 9th disciple. He should have found out about the Anata Tower long ago, but why hasn't he collected it? Is it because the Anata Grand Prime secretly permits Jian Chen to possess the Anata Tower? The Azure Peng King's face immediately changed drastically, and his heart surged when his thoughts reached this point. At that moment, he could not help but think back to what he went through when he hunted down Jian Chen. The memories flashed through his head, starting from when he first entered the spatial crack in search of Jian Chen to falling into so many temporal vortices for no reason in the end. He seemed to understand something, and he was immediately shocked. It's the Unata Grand Prime. It's the Unata Grand Prime. He's secretly behind it all. The heavenly king of azure brilliance cried out inside as he fell into emotional turmoil. However, he simply could not understand the reasoning behind the Unata Grand Prime's actions. At this moment, on a land distant from the desolate plain on the Saints' World, there was an extremely bustling city with several large-scale formations. The teleportation formations would flicker with light from time to time, and the teleportation powers would surge, sending cultivators far away. In the center of the teleportation formations was one that was clearly even larger and more complicated. However, it would frequently remain unused for several months or even years. People poured in and out of the teleportation formations around it. Compared to the busier teleportation formations, the larger teleportation formation clearly seemed rather special. This was because it was a teleportation formation that could take people across Great Plains. Across any of the 49 Great Plains or 81 Great Planets in the Saints' World, there would not be a lot of these types of teleportation formations. Only organizations of great power could construct them. At this moment, the teleportation formation suddenly shone with dazzling light. Its teleportation powers surged out, and a young man and woman appeared silently. The man was burly and bare-chested. His muscles swelled, hiding explosive power. The woman had an ordinary face. She did not seem to have any special features at all. She was the type who would not stand out at all from a crowd. Obviously, the two of them were Jian Chen and Kai Ya. Not only did Jian Chen wear Mo Tianyun's mask and conceal his presence, he even altered his stature drastically. Kai Ya also used a disguise. Neither of them used their true appearances. The two of them are only God Kings, yet they've come through an interplanar teleportation formation. You can tell with a single glance that they have a huge background. That's an interplanar teleportation formation. It's said that a single transportation comes at an astronomical price, where even regular primordial realm experts can't afford it. Jian Chen and Kai Ya's arrival immediately attracted the attention of the people around the teleportation formation. Many of them studied Jian Chen and Kai Ya as they discussed among themselves softly. "Let's go," said Jian Chen before immediately vanishing into the sea of people with Kai Ya. At the same time, on the distant desolate plain, all the peak experts were no longer in the mood to look for Jian Chen and fight over the Anata Tower anymore after what happened with the Blood Tier Grand Exalt. All of them left the desolate plain and returned to their clans with no idea about how to deal with Gusta's flesh and blood. However, there was one exception. He was a hook-nosed old man that had short hair. He was the ancestor of a large organization on the aquaplane of the 49 Great Plains in the Saints' World. People called him the Elder of Mountains and Seas. Although the Elder of Mountains and Seas had already left the desolate plain, he was in no hurry to return to the aquaplane. Instead, he sat in the sea of stars and used a secret technique, as if he was trying to sense something. Quite a long while later, the Elder of Mountains and Seas opened his eyes slowly, and a gleam of excitement appeared in his eyes. He sniggered and said, "Jian Chen, I've already seen your true appearance when I was outside the Sword God Mountains. You would have never thought that I possess an innate ability that allows me to find anyone, no matter how far they've fled, no matter how well they've hidden, as long as I've seen them before. Before I saw you, there was nothing that I could do. I wouldn't have been able to find you no matter how I tried forecasting or peering into your matters. However, since I've seen you, there's nowhere for you to hide. Hee, I've already found you. I never thought you would have actually managed to leave the desolate plain without raising anyone's attention. However, that is perfect for me. Even if I took the Anata Tower from you on the desolate plain, it might not necessarily end up with me. But now that you've left the desolate plain secretly, only I know about your whereabouts. It looks like the Anata Tower is mine. Hee. Here comes my fortuitous encounter. Jian Chen, I would like to see how you hide now." The Elder of Mountains and Seas sneered excitedly. Immediately, he took off in the direction he could vaguely sense. He moved extremely quickly, vanishing into the sea of stars with a few flashes. Elsewhere, Jian Chen and Kai Ya had asked around and found out their current location. They were on the Jade Fluid Plain, and they currently stood within an imperial capital of the Shunquan Empire, one of the everlasting empires there. The Jade Fluid Plain ranked slightly lower than the Desolate Plain among the 49 Great Plains. In reality, the Jade Fluid Plain matched the Desolate Plain in terms of peak experts. The only thing they lacked was a peak expert who could astound the entire plain like the Celestial Sword Saint. The jade fluid plane is far too close to the desolate plane, so we can't stay here for long. We need to leave as soon as possible, Jianchen said as he felt secretly vexed. Due to leaving in too great of a hurry, he did not select a transportation location. In the end, the unkempt old man had sent them to the closest jade fluid plane. He had spent a total of 1,005 colored divine crystals, yet he had been sent to a location that he could reach with a few dozen. He had indeed suffered quite a loss in the deal. Now, the 5 colored divine crystals that he had obtained after so much effort were all spent. The jade fluid plane is indeed not safe. If the people on the desolate plane want to come here, it won't take them long even without teleportation formations. We can't end up trapped like last time, said Kaya in agreement. Obviously, she believed that the further they were from the desolate plane, the safer they would be. After a while of thought, Jianchen said, "We're out of 5 colored divine crystals, so we won't be able to use the teleportation formations to travel anymore. We can only take a spatial battleship off the jade fluid plane." "Then where should we go?" Kaya asked. "The Anata Tower is an object of desire. I plan on returning the Anata Tower to the heavenly palace of Bishing in exchange for great merit," said Jianchen. He understood that he would never have peace as long as the Anata Tower was on him. He would become the target of many peak experts. If these people looked into his background and found the Tianyuan clan, there would be a lot of trouble. After all, he had left the Cloud Plane many years ago. He had no idea about the Tianyuan clan's current situation. Although Mingdong had already ventured to the Tianyuan clan after leaving the Neptunian Divine Palace, Jianchen needed to prepare for the worst. Before long, Jianchen and Kaya arrived at the spatial port of the Shunquan Empire. They were ready to take a spatial battleship that went to the Prosper Plane where the heavenly palace of Bishing stood. Although they were already powerful enough to travel through outer space alone, their speed would be much slower than a spatial battleship. After all, even the spatial battleships of the lowest quality moved much faster than 9th heavenly layer infinite primes. It would be impossible to match their speed unless there was a chaotic prime. Even if he used the laws of space with his current strength, he would not be able to outspeed a spatial battleship. However, when he checked the amount of time required to go to the Prosper Plane, Jianchen became troubled. The jade fluid plane was extremely distant from the Prosper Plane. They had to pass through several great planes and over a dozen planets. The journey alone would take several tens of thousand years. Moreover, this did not include the time that would be wasted by the disturbance of various space beasts, and by avoiding areas of danger. The journey would take even longer once such things were considered. Jianchen could not afford to wait such a long time. "Let's go to the Star Brilliance Plane." The Star Brilliance Plane is the closest to the Jade Fluid Plane. It'll only take over a decade to get there. I'll be able to use that time to properly cultivate on the spatial battleship. Jianchen quickly came to a decision. Now, not only did he possess 5 droplets of essence blood from Gusta, but he also possessed Gusta's energy reserve, the fleshly core. With such tremendous energy on hand, he did not have to worry about cultivation resources to reach the 15th or even 16th layer now, let alone breaking through to the 14th layer of the chaotic body. As long as his comprehension of laws was sufficient, he could immediately break through with his chaotic body. Afterwards, Jianchen changed his appearance once again, becoming a middle-aged man with a stature not too burly or slender through Mo Tianyun's mask. Afterwards, he boarded the spatial battleship with Kai Ya, hurrying off to the Star Brilliance Plane. Before long, the spatial battleship rose up to outer space and left the Jade Fluid Plane, gliding through outer space. Jianchen immediately entered secluded cultivation. He personally cast down a formation before immediately absorbing the energy within Gusta's essence blood to break through to the 14th layer of the chaotic body. The 13th layer of the chaotic body had bestowed upon him the battle prowess to fight and kill early infinite primes. But in reality, his level of cultivation was only peak God King in terms of how cultivation was divided in the Saints' world. It was the 14th layer of the chaotic body that matched up with infinite primes in the Saints' world. After all, the chaotic body was a completely different system of cultivation. Both the systems used in the Saints' world and the Immortals' world differed greatly. It was impossible to make an accurate comparison between the different cultivation systems. He could only roughly determine where he was. The 14th layer of the chaotic body is equivalent to infinite primes in the Saints' world, while the 15th layer is also equivalent to infinite primes. I presume that the 14th layer is around the peak of early infinite prime, so around the 3rd heavenly layer. The 15th layer is equivalent to late infinite prime, which is from the 7th to the 9th heavenly layers. The 16th, 17th, and 18th layers should correspond to early, mid, and late chaotic prime. The 18th layer is the limit of the chaotic prime, which is peak chaotic prime. That is because none of the people in the immortals world who had cultivated the chaotic body has managed to surpass the 18th layer and reach the legendary Great Perfection. This Great Perfection is equivalent to grand primes of the saints' world and immortal exalts of the immortals world, Jian Chen thought to himself. Although the final limit of the chaotic body was chaotic prime, and he might never be able to progress any further than that, he did not become downhearted at all. Instead, his fighting spirit was riled up. He had to disprove the rumor that the chaotic body could never reach great perfection. He would reach the highest level of the chaotic body. Jian Chen sat with his legs crossed within the cabin. A fist-sized jade bottle was placed beside him. It contained Gusta's essence blood. Jian Chen had already removed a droplet of essence blood from the jade bottle. The pea-sized, shining droplet of essence blood hovered before Jian Chen quietly. The droplet of essence blood contained extremely terrifying energy. If it erupted, it would unleash devastating might enough to destroy a whole region of space. However, at this moment, all of the energy within the essence blood was concealed, without giving out any ripples at all. Otherwise, the formation Jian Chen cast down would have never been able to conceal something so powerful. Currently, the energy within the droplet of essence blood was being absorbed by Jian Chen bit by bit. After he refined the energy, it turned into new chaotic force and filled up his chaotic Niden. As the energy within the essence blood rapidly drained away, Jian Chen's chaotic Niden gradually swelled up. The droplet of essence blood contains the power of curses. This power was an arrangement set up by the expert who comprehended the laws of curses among the 8 experts. But I've inherited his golden core of laws, so the laws don't affect me, thought Jian Chen. His comprehension of the laws of curses had already reached God King, so he had discovered the power of curses within the essence blood long ago. As he absorbed the essence blood, the power of curses would seep into his body along with it before being absorbed by one of the golden cores of laws in his soul. As a result, the power of curses was useless against him. This curse will spread with the power of the bloodline. Using Gusta's bloodline as a medium, it will cross through time and space and directly cast itself on all ancient great apes. I just wonder if the ancient great apes are affected or not. Jian Chen opened his eyes and looked towards the cabin door. His gaze seemed to be able to pierce it, allowing him to see the vast space outside. Whatever. Let's cultivate first. My priority right now is to reach the 14th layer of the chaotic body. Jian Chen dismissed his thoughts and began to focus on cultivating. In the heaven-splitting clan on the 9 Clouds Plain, the heaven-splitting ancestor who only seemed to be in his 30s stood in white robes as an invisible presence radiated from him. It interfered with the laws and order there at all times. As a result, the region was completely under his control. It felt like he was the supreme ruler of that region. As one of the most powerful experts below grand exalts and an existence that was incredibly close to becoming the heavenly ways themselves, the heaven-splitting ancestor could influence a small region of space even though he could not affect the laws and order of an entire world. He was extremely powerful. A space ring hovered before the heaven-splitting ancestor quietly. Nearby, Tu San stood politely with his head lowered. Bang! At this moment, the space ring exploded loudly. Immediately, pieces of flesh with many droplets of golden blood appeared out of nowhere. One of the pieces was colossal. It was the size of a mountain. The thick arm it was attached to reached thousands of meters long. With so many body fragments, the heaven-splitting ancestor's courtyard was no longer big enough to hold it all. However, at this moment, a powerful will appeared. It influenced the order and laws in the area, immediately shrinking the pieces to an ordinary man's size. Even the huge arm had shrunk to a little over a meter in length. The heaven-splitting ancestor stared at the blood and flesh calmly and said, "There's the power of curses within Gusta's blood. This is a curse of a bloodline. All members of the ancient great apes won't be able to avoid its influence no matter how distant they are. However, it's completely unneeded." The person who cast it down had no idea that the ancient great apes had basically gone extinct after their war with the spirit sages. Their 2 remaining dark gold ape kings were slain by the wind venerable of the spirit sages as well. It has been a very long time since an ancient great ape has appeared in the saints' world. Perhaps their species have completely vanished off the face of the world. Master, How should we deal with the flesh and blood? Tu-san asked politely. He felt uneasy. After all, this matter was related to the blood tier Grand Exalt. Leave Gusta's blood and flesh here for now. Let's see the blood tier Grand Exalt's response first, the heaven-splitting ancestor said slowly. He looked at the vast outer space, and his eyes deepened. I have always felt that there was something strange, something off with this matter, as the blood tier Grand Exalt's reaction was rather abnormal. Gusta's body has been nourished on the desolate plain for countless years now. Over such a long period of time, no one has been able to sense this. The two other dark gold ape kings of the ancient great apes were clearly incapable of this. They were powerful, but they were only powerful in battle. In terms of techniques and abilities, they were nowhere close to other experts. As a result, it's definitely the blood tier Grand Exalt's handiwork. Since Gusta's body has caught the blood tier Grand Exalt's eye, these remains definitely would not have ended up with us. The blood tier Grand Exalt would have taken it back. With a Grand Exalt's abilities, rebuilding Gusta's shattered body is a piece of cake, but the blood tier Grand Exalt did not retrieve the remains. The blood tier Grand Exalt treats Gusta's body with importance, yet he doesn't care about it, allowing us to fight over it. There's something strange about that. The final point is Jian Chen. He was the one behind the shattering of Gusta's body, so logically speaking, the blood tier Grand Exalt should not have spared him. However, the blood tier Grand Exalt did not take a single person away from the desolate plain, nor did he kill anyone. He left very suddenly. This is indeed difficult to understand. The laws interwove within the heaven-splitting ancestor's eyes. He tried peering into the matter. I always felt like this matter isn't as simple as it seems. There seems to be some unknown secret hidden within it. Master, then about Jian Chen? Tu-san asked carefully. The heaven-splitting ancestor fell into a moment of thought and replied, After what happened with the blood tier Grand Exalt, I feel like Jian Chen is even more complicated than I imagined him to be. There's no need for you to do anything more. Just wait for Jian Chen to appear again, and I'll pay him a personal visit. I'm very curious about the secrets he hides, where even I can't peer into any matters about him. And Gusta's fleshly core might be with Jian Chen. The fleshly core is the most valuable item from Gusta's body. With that, the heaven-splitting ancestor vanished. When he reappeared, he was inside the Neptunian Divine Palace. The defenses of the Neptunian Divine Palace were completely useless to the heaven-splitting ancestor. They were unable to stop him at all. Senior, has Brother Jian Chen come? Before long, Zi Yun and Xiao Man rushed over after receiving a notice from the artifact spirit. As soon as she saw the heaven-splitting ancestor, Xiao Man asked eagerly and looked around for traces of Jian Chen. Although Zi Yun said nothing, the light in her eyes did flicker. They were filled with hope. Jian Chen is very safe. He doesn't need my protection. I've come this time to ask you one more time about whether you've considered my previous suggestion. Are you willing to exchange the pernight or with me? If you exchange it with me, not only will I give you a tremendous amount of cultivation resources and heavenly resources, but I will also protect you from any disturbances so that you can cultivate at ease, the heaven-splitting ancestor said calmly. Senior, are you chasing us away? Zi Yun's heart sank slightly. My patience is limited, said the heaven-splitting ancestor. We'll do it. We're willing to exchange with you. However, right after the heaven-splitting ancestor finished speaking, the artifact spirit of the Neptunian Divine Palace agreed eagerly. He felt much fear towards the heaven-splitting ancestor. Currently, the artifact stood there as a short old man. All right. I'll go prepare the items, and we'll exchange them in 3 days. The heaven-splitting ancestor was delighted. He chuckled aloud before vanishing from the Neptunian Divine Palace. After the heaven-splitting ancestor's departure, the artifact spirit said to Xiao Man bitterly and powerlessly, Little Master, we're out of options. If we don't agree to the heaven-splitting ancestor's terms, we won't be able to stay here any longer. You still should remember what we faced several days ago, Little Master. We didn't have the deterrence of the heaven-splitting ancestor, and all the peak experts who desired the Neptunian Divine Palace swarmed us. The defenses of the Neptunian Divine Palace are very great, but they are not invincible. Once we end up in the hands of those peak experts, we'll probably lose our freedom. Matters even more severe than that might happen. But the heaven-splitting ancestor is different. The Neptunian Divine Palace does not interest him. What interests him is only the pernight or on the 8th floor, so the heaven-splitting ancestor definitely won't harm us. B. But he hasn't brought back brother Jian Chen. Xiaoman refused to accept it. The artifact spirit sighed and said sincerely, "Little master, you still haven't understood that what we need to consider is not Jian Chen's safety but our own. We cannot offend the heaven-splitting ancestor. He can even move through the Neptunian Divine Palace as he pleases. If he forcefully takes away the pernight ore, we won't be able to stop him at all. If it were not for his pride as a supreme expert at his level, coupled with the fact that Little Master is no different from a child in his eyes, the heaven-splitting ancestor would just take what he wanted, and we probably won't be able to keep the pernight ore until now. Anyway, since the heaven-splitting ancestor wants the pernight ore, it's not something we'll be able to keep. Even if the Neptunian Divine Palace ends up in the hands of other peak experts, they'll only be able to offer up the pernight or to the heaven-splitting ancestor obediently. In the end, it's all because we're too weak. Xiaoman, after we get cultivation resources from senior heaven-splitting, we have to work hard on cultivation. Without great strength, we will constantly be restrained, under the control of others no matter where we go in this world." Zi Yun sighed gently as determination flooded her eyes. She had obtained the legacy of a chaotic prime from the Neptunian Divine Palace, so she stood at a good starting point. The only thing she lacked now was hard work and cultivation resources. Time passed silently. Unknowingly, a year and a half had already passed since the mess on the desolate plain. A colossal spatial battleship shot through the endless sea of stars within the Saint's world, moving at great speeds. At this moment, Jian Chen slowly opened his eyes as he sat within a high-class cabin. He looked at the jade bottle placed beside him. Just when he wanted to lift it, he suddenly hesitated. Gusta's essence blood is very difficult to refine. Absorbing a single droplet takes me half a year. Now only 2 droplets remain, but looking at the size of my chaotic Niden, I won't be able to reach the 14th layer even if I absorb them. Whatever, I'll keep the 2 droplets for now and exchange them for some 5-colored divine crystals when I get the chance. Gusta was one of the most powerful experts below Grand Exalt. His essence blood would obviously be invaluable. I just happen to be in need of quite a lot of 5-colored divine crystals to go to the Prosper Plane. Jian Chen immediately stowed the bottle away when he thought of this point. After that, he clasped Gusta's fleshly core in his hand before beginning to absorb the energy and vital energy within it. The energy within the fleshly core was extremely terrifying and powerful. It was on a whole different level compared to all the energy within a droplet of essence blood. After all, the fleshly core was equivalent to Jian Chen's chaotic Niden. It was the reserve of all of Gusta's power. As a result, Jian Chen was especially careful and cautious when he absorbed the energy in the fleshly core. He only dared to absorb a tiny strand each time. Even though it was just a tiny strand, it was tremendous to him. It would take him quite a long time to refine it completely. Time passed slowly. It took Jian Chen even longer to reach the 14th layer compared to his past breakthroughs. In the blink of an eye, Jian Chen had already been cultivating on the spatial battleship for a decade. He did not take a single step out of the cabin during this time, devoting it all to cultivation. Even when the spatial battleship faced the attacks of space beasts and shook heavily, his cultivation continued. With the fleshly core, Jian Chen was extremely confident about reaching the 14th layer. He was willing to bet his life on it. Finally, a powerful pulse of energy suddenly erupted from the cabin where Jian Chen cultivated. The formations that Jian Chen had cast down in the past crumbled like paper before the energy, immediately shattering to pieces. The energy swept out with pressure like a storm, striking the walls of the cabin. Immediately, formations flickered on the walls and locked all the energy within the cabin, preventing it from spreading outside. The defenses of the spatial battleship were extremely great. Even though the storm of energy was very powerful, the formations blocked it easily. There were several high-class cabins on the spatial battleship. Jian Chen happened to reside in one of them. At this moment, in another cabin, Kai Ya's eyes suddenly snapped open. She stared in Jian Chen's direction with shining eyes as a smile gradually appeared on her face. She murmured, "Jian Chen has broken through again." Afterwards, she seemed to think of something, and she became gloomy. She said downheartedly, "Jian Chen is becoming stronger and stronger now, but I'm struggling to make any progress at all. I always feel like there's a mysterious power preventing me from reaching a higher level of cultivation." Sighing softly, Kaya stood up and made her way out of the cabin. Jian Chen had finished cultivating, so he walked out of the cabin where he cultivated in, standing in one of the common spaces on the spatial battleship. His bearing varied drastically from before. This was due to a metamorphosis of his existence, a qualitative leap of his vital energies. After 10 years of secluded cultivation, his chaotic body finally advanced to the 14th layer. He had reached a new level of strength. My current cultivation is equivalent to a 3rd heavenly layer infinite prime. Of course, that's only cultivation. In terms of battle prowess, I'll definitely be far beyond the 3rd heavenly layer of infinite prime with the strength of my chaotic body. Jian Chen clenched his fist. As he sensed the terrifying energy surging through him, he became delighted. The 14th layer of the chaotic body was equivalent to early infinite prime, but his battle prowess was on par with mid-infinite primes. Of course, mid-infinite prime was divided into 3 smaller levels, which were the 4th heavenly layer, 5th heavenly layer, and 6th heavenly layer. He needed to find an opponent and fight before he could accurately determine which heavenly layer his battle prowess had reached now. Infinite primes can be considered as experts in the saints' world. On any plane, they're people of status. Even among those peak organizations that stand at the apex of planes, infinite primes have the right to speak. Jian Chen's mood was great. Even though he knew his current strength could not garner any attention from grand primes at all, his ability to stay alive when he faced such experts had improved at the very least. Jian Chen, there are still 5 more years before we reach the Star Brilliance plane, Kaya walked over and said to Jian Chen. Jian Chen sucked in a deep breath and calmed himself from the excitement of breaking through. First, he sank into his thoughts after hearing Kaya's words before replying, "I've kept 2 droplets of Gusta's essence blood. I plan on exchanging them for some 5-colored divine crystals once I get to the Star Brilliance plane. Moreover, there are a few more god artifacts in the Grand Prime space ring I obtained from the Neptunian Divine Palace. I do not need to worry about revealing these god artifacts with my current strength. I plan on auctioning them off on the Star Brilliance plane. Once we have enough 5-colored divine crystals, we can immediately take a teleportation formation to the Prosper plane and return the Anata Tower to the Heavenly Palace of Bishing." To Jian Chen, the only way to get to the Prosper plane was through a teleportation formation because it was just too far away. He could not afford to waste over 10,000 years traveling. As long as you return the Anata Tower to the Heavenly Palace of Bishing, all the problems you face right now will be resolved. At that time, there will be no need for us to remain under disguise. Kaya was eager as well. Jian Chen nodded. If he returned the long-lost Anata Tower to the Heavenly Palace of Bishing, his service would be so meritorious that even if the heaven-splitting ancestor wanted to lay his hands on him, he would need to consider the response from the First Majesty, Xueqi. Most importantly, he would be powerful enough to return to the Cloud Plane. It has been so long. I wonder how the Tian Yuan clan is doing. Back in the past, I was forced off the Cloud Plane by the pursuit of Vice Leader Huai and of the Empyrean demon cult. Now that my strength has completely exceeded his, I need to take revenge when I have the time, Jian Chen thought. As soon as he thought about how he and Kaya had been chased off the Cloud Plane, he became filled with inconcealable fury and killing intent. Even though he knew the great elder of the Empyrean demon cult was Mo Tianyun, he still planned on resolving his grievance with Huaiyan through bloodshed. All right. I heard that there are members of quite a few large clans from the Jade Fluid plane on this spatial battleship. They seem to be heading to some celebration on the Star Brilliance plane. Perhaps you could auction a god artifact on the spatial battleship, Kaya suddenly said. I want 5-colored divine crystals. Only primordial realm experts possess 5-colored divine crystals. If they're god kings, they might not have what I want even if they come from large clans, said Jian Chen. The members of the large clans are taking part in a celebration on the Star Brilliance plane. In reality, it's just offering up gifts. They really might have 5-colored divine crystals, said Kaya. She would constantly move around on the spatial battleship during the time Jian Chen cultivated in seclusion. She had learnt a lot of information. Jian Chen mulled over her words and said, "Fair enough. I'll take out a god artifact then. If I can get all the 5-colored divine crystals I need on the spatial battleship, that would obviously be for the best." Afterwards, Jian Chen and Kaya went to the auction center. The spatial battleship was extremely large, and it used the laws of space, making it bigger on the inside. As a result, It was nothing special for a single spatial battleship to hold millions of people and possess all sorts of facilities. It was basically a special type of city. Before long, Jian Chen arrived at the largest store on the spatial battleship. There were various items placed around the store. It had a superb collection such that the entire place was bedazzling. Many cultivators moved through the place, picking out items that they needed. "I want to meet your manager. I have a large business deal to discuss with him," said Jian Chen to one of the staff as soon as he entered the store. At the same time, he tossed out some supreme-grade divine crystals. When the staff member saw how extravagant Jian Chen was, he did not dare to tarry. He greeted Jian Chen and immediately called over the manager. Very soon, a skinny middle-aged man walked over. Under the guidance of the staff member, he arrived before Jian Chen. "I am Yu Chen, the one responsible for this store. May I ask how I can refer to you?" The middle-aged man clasped his fist towards Jian Chen amiably as he seemed to give off the pressure of a god king. He studied Jian Chen and Kaiya covertly. However, when he discovered that he could not see through Jian Chen or Kaiya at all, and their expressions remained the same despite the pressure he accidentally gave off, he immediately became stern. Jian Chen did not answer the question. With a flip of his hand, a large sword appeared. He said, "I want to auction this item. Will you take it or not?" The entire store became illuminated the instant the two-handed sword appeared. The dazzling treasures all paled in comparison, having been suppressed by the sword's glow. At the same time, the pressure of a god artifact radiated out, shocking everyone. At that moment, the attention of everyone in the store was drawn over to the glowing sword. This! The eyes of the manager of the store Yu Chen widened. He stared at the two-handed sword in shock as he became stunned. However, he returned to his senses before long. Ignoring his shock, he immediately used a cloth to cover the sword. His cloth was also a treasure. It was of an impressive quality and could conceal presences. Under the cloth, the glow and the pressure from the two-handed sword immediately vanished. It had all been covered up. "Please come in. Please come in. We'll talk in the room for guests." Immediately, Yu Chen became excited. His eyes lit up, and he became even more enthusiastic, inviting Jian Chen and Kaiya into a better room in a hurry. "A god artifact. That's a god artifact. Someone is auctioning a god artifact. That's startling news. Heavens, that's a god artifact. I heard that even many primordial realm experts don't possess one." After Jian Chen, Kaiya, and Yu Chen had vanished, a fervent discussion immediately broke out. No one was in the mood to pick treasures for themselves anymore. The god artifact had become the center of their conversations as they talked enthusiastically. At this moment, in a well-decorated room specially used to receive the most esteemed guests on the top floor of the store, the manager, Yu Chen, sat with Jian Chen and Kaiya. "This sword is a low-quality god artifact. Are you certain you want to auction it off?" All the formations had been activated in the room, concealing everything within it. Yu Chen held the huge sword as he rubbed it affectionately. He was infatuated with it. He seemed like he was touching something he loved the most. Jian Chen nodded and said indifferently, "I want to exchange this god artifact for 5 colored divine crystals. Remember, I only want 5 colored divine crystals." Yu Chen's heart shuddered when he heard that. He thought, 5 colored divine crystals are only used by primordial realm experts for cultivation and taking teleportation formations between planes. Is this person a hidden primordial realm expert? Although that was what he thought, Yu Chen showed none of it on his face. Immediately, he agreed, and he even began treating them with more politeness. He was unable to tell Jian Chen's strength, but when he saw him take out a god artifact casually, he understood that even if Jian Chen was not a primordial realm expert, he would surely have extremely astonishing origins. Next, they discussed the details. After that, Jian Chen left the god artifact with Yu Chen and returned to the cabin with Kaiya. Shortly afterwards, the news of a god artifact being auctioned off soon spread across the entire spatial battleship through the advertising power of the shop. Immediately, the matter caused a huge uproar on the spatial battleship. After all, basically all of the cultivators on the spatial battleship were at godhood. There were probably only a handful of primordial realm experts. Now, a god artifact that even some primordial realm experts did not possess had been tossed into a group of godhood cultivators. Obviously, They had all become crazed for the god artifact. What did you say? A low-quality god artifact is about to be auctioned off? A young man's voice rang out from an extremely extravagant cavern high up on the spatial battleship. A god artifact has actually appeared. Fantastic. Our clan just happens to be offering up a treasure that does not stand out at all for the young Star-Lord's 1,000-year birthday celebration. Let's use this god artifact as the gift instead. Elder He, we have to get the god artifact. Go investigate who the owner of the god artifact is. If we gift a god artifact for the young Star-Lord's 1,000-year birthday celebration on the Star Brilliance plane, it'll be far better than the gift we've prepared. Although a mere god artifact is nothing to the young Star-Lord with his status, it'll show off our clan a little, a powerful voice boomed out from another luxurious cabin. Wei Xiao, the person auctioning the god artifact, stated that he only wants 5 colored divine crystals. Aside from being used for teleportation formations between planes, 5 colored divine crystals are only used for cultivation by primordial realm experts. They're extremely likely to be a primordial realm expert, so it's best if we don't provoke them. The 5 colored divine crystals on me are nowhere enough to buy a low-quality god artifact, an old man smiled bitterly. There aren't many primordial realm experts on this spatial battleship at all. Moreover, how many of them would be willing to sell a god artifact? Go find the exact location of the person on the spatial battleship, and then use the name of our clan to buy the god artifact for a low price, said the young man referred to as Wei Xiao. At the same time, 6 old men sat in the air within a large room on the highest floor of the spatial battleship. Every single one of them possessed tremendous presences. Their old bodies hid extremely great power, as if even the slightest gestures from them would possess devastating might. The 6 old men were the protectors of the spatial battleship, the peak figures who watched over it. They protected the vehicle as it moved through outer space. They were all infinite primes. Interesting. There's actually someone who wants to auction off a god artifact, said one of the old men in interest. The person who wants to auction off the god artifact resides in a high-class cabin. He shouldn't be a primordial realm expert because all primordial realm experts, even if they have only broken through recently, are allowed to occupy a luxurious cabin free of cost. The person who's selling the god artifact used supreme-grade divine crystals to purchase a high-class cabin, so he should be a god king, said another man. With a single thought, he learnt all the information that Jian Chen had provided when he boarded the spatial battleship. The light in the eyes of a burly primordial realm expert immediately flickered with excitement. He snickered and said, "The god artifact is a huge sword, which just happens to be perfect for me. I haven't gotten my hands on a god artifact yet, so this god artifact will be mine." With that, a huge sword appeared in his hand. It was similar to the god artifact that Jian Chen wanted to sell, except for the fact that it was only a supreme quality saint artifact. Although the old man was an infinite prime, he did not possess a god artifact. You've served the float empire of the Jade Fluid Plane for far too short. You don't have enough merit. If you wait for another few tens of thousand years, you should be able to exchange the merit you gathered through your services for a low-quality god artifact, a companion said from beside him. The burly old man shook his head and replied, "A few tens of thousand years is a little too long. Who knows when I might die when I have to face space beasts in battle constantly as I watch over spatial battleships. The sooner I get a god artifact, the better it is. Only with greater strength will I have a higher chance of surviving and making it further." With that, the burly old man stood up and said, "I'll go find the person and try to get the god artifact from him before it goes on auction. Otherwise, there'll probably be no chance for me with the wealth I have on me once it goes up on auction. Fa Yun, you serve the Float Empire, and this spatial battleship is the Float Empire's property. At the same time, there are rules set down by the Float Empire. You must not break them and make things difficult for us. I know what I can and can't do." The disturbance from the auctioning of a god artifact continued to build up, and Jian Chen's cabin had already been discovered by a few people of extraordinary origins through their various methods. As a result, people constantly visited where Jian Chen stayed. Most of them possessed great backgrounds and directly expressed their interest in buying the god artifact from Jian Chen through a private deal or exchanging for it with heavenly resources. Jian Chen did not turn them away. "I only want 5 colored divine crystals. I don't need anything else apart from 5 colored divine crystals," Jian Chen said emotionlessly to a middle-aged man who had visited him. Who knows how many times he had said that already. "Sir, we don't have 5 colored divine crystals right now, but the senior of our Myriad Water Estate does have quite a lot. You should know about the Myriad Water Estate of the Jade Fluid Plane, right? We're a large, renowned organization. You can give us the God artifact first, and the seniors of our Myriad Water Estate will go to the Star Brilliance Plane before long and give you the 5-colored divine crystals, a middle-aged man said before Jian Chen. He spoke amiably, but there was also undisguised arrogance. I refuse. Jian Chen gestured for him to leave. He no longer discussed terms with him, directly asking him to leave. Sir, don't you trust and recognize our Myriad Water Estate? The middle-aged man's face sank. Chapter 2398. The Primordial Realm Expert. I only recognize 5-colored divine crystals. If you don't have enough 5-colored divine crystals on you right now, please leave, Jian Chen stressed once again. He showed no respect, leaving no room for negotiation. The middle-aged man from the Myriad Water Estate was immediately angered. Cold light filled his eyes and he said, Sir, are you looking down on our Myriad Water Estate? Sir, please leave, Kaya said indifferent from beside Jian Chen, gesturing for the man to leave. Jian Chen remained seated with his eyes closed. He did not say anything more. He did not waver at all. Humph. The middle-aged man glacéed past Jian Chen with a glare and snorted coldly before turning around dramatically and leaving. The rules of the spatial battleship were strict. They openly forbid fights outside the arena. Even the Myriad Water Estate, an organization on the same level, did not dare to disobey the rules set down by the renowned Float Empire so easily. Jian Chen, looks like the results aren't ideal. Kaya arrived before Jian Chen and sat down after the middle-aged man had left. She looked at Jian Chen and sighed gently. There's only a handful of primordial realm experts on the spatial battleship and 5-colored divine crystals tend to be in their possession as well. There will obviously be a certain level of difficulty if I expect these god kings to pay a satisfactory price, Jian Chen said slowly. He understood just how valuable 5-colored divine crystals were. Back on the cloud plane, Fairy How you had even gone as far as to take personal action and eliminate a powerful enemy for someone else just to gather up enough 5-colored divine crystals to return to the Moon God Hall. Evidently, even to primordial realm experts, 5-colored divine crystals were very valuable. I still have a few god artifacts on me. I planned on selling a few of them to get some 5-colored divine crystals, but it looks like I was a little too hopeful. Now, I can only wait for the auction to start. I hope that the infinite primes on the spatial battleship don't disappoint me, Jian Chen said softly. He kept his eyes closed the entire time and did not move at all. It was like he was meditating. Before long, there was a sudden flash before Jian Chen, and an extremely burly, 3-meter-tall old man silently appeared. The old man was especially large. He was like a small giant. Jian Chen seemed insignificant as he sat before him. The old man studied Jian Chen, and the light in his eyes flickered. Hee, I am Fa Yun, and I serve the Float Empire. I am one of the protectors of this spatial battleship. Jian Chen slowly opened his eyes and stared at Fa Yun calmly. He said, You must have come for the god artifact as well. Do you have enough 5-colored divine crystals? I obviously have 5-colored divine crystals, said Fa Yun with a snicker. With a flip of his hand, a huge gourd half a meter tall appeared. He said to Jian Chen, There's wine that I've personally made in this gourd. I used 999 renowned heavenly resources and 1,000 years to make it. It's my proudest work. Come, try my wine first, and then we can talk about the matter of exchanging slowly. Before Jian Chen could reply, Fa Yun swung his hand, and the huge gourd immediately flew towards Jian Chen. It was more like smashing instead of flying because the gourd moved just too quickly. Anyone could tell that it was smashing towards Jian Chen. Powerful energy was contained within the gourd as well. Although it did not possess killing intent, it was enough to make any god king suffer greatly and become disheveled. Clearly, Fa Yun wanted to use this to test Jian Chen. Jian Chen's face did not change. He extended his right hand at a steady but lightning-fast pace and firmly caught the wine gourd before patting its side gently. Immediately, a stream of wine as thick as a finger shot out and landed in his mouth with great accuracy. Jian Chen did not stand up throughout the entire process. He remained seated, as still as a mountain, with a calm expression. Fa Yun's eyes immediately narrowed when he witnessed this. What good wine! It truly is aged. Jian Chen praised from the bottom of his heart before patting the gourd gently again. Immediately, it flew back to Fa Yun with the same speed. Clearly, Jian Chen was returning it to him. However, when Fa Yun caught the gourd, his old eyes immediately lit up. His body shook, and having been caught off guard, he was almost pushed backwards. The primordial realm! Fa Yun cried out as surprise filled his face. His gaze towards Jian Chen underwent an overwhelming change. I've tried your wine, so let's talk about the price. May I ask just how many 5-colored divine crystals you've prepared? Jian Chen asked. You really have hidden well. I never thought you would be a primordial realm expert yet reside in a high-class cabin. It has truly surprised me, Fa Yun said. Immediately, he changed his attitude after learning that Jian Chen was a primordial realm expert. Although he failed to discover Jian Chen's strength, just being a primordial realm expert was enough for Jian Chen to stand on equal ground with him. Fa Yun sat down slowly before Jian Chen, but even when he was seated, Jian Chen needed to raise his head slightly to make eye contact. I have around 505 colored divine crystals on me right now, Fa Yun said after hesitating for a while. Jian Chen frowned when he heard that. His voice became rather serious and he said, Only 500? That's nowhere near enough. A low-quality god artifact is worth far more than that. Fa Yun fell silent. Originally, he planned on overwhelming Jian Chen with his identity as a primordial realm expert and buy the god artifact from him at a lower price. But in the end, he never expected Jian Chen to be a primordial realm expert as well, so his earlier thoughts clearly would not work out. I'll find a way to gather some more 5-colored divine crystals. With that, Fa Yun directly left. During the next few days, the people who visited Jian Chen gradually decreased. Everyone had learnt that Jian Chen was stubborn. He only wanted 5-colored divine crystals and left no room for negotiation, so they obviously did not visit him again. Of course, Jian Chen offended quite a few people during those days. There were even a few people with larger backgrounds who directly threatened him. Fa Yun did not go to find Jian Chen in the next few days either. In the blink of an eye, the day of the auction arrived. The god artifact from Jian Chen was placed in the auction center, shining with dazzling light. Powerful formations protected it, preventing anyone from stealing it. The surroundings were absolutely packed. Everyone stared at the god artifact with undisguised interest and desire. Jian Chen and Kaya had arrived in a viewing box specially prepared for them, paying close attention to the activity of the auction. All the authoritative people on the spatial battleship had gathered as well. They were seated in various viewing boxes. Jian Chen, I feel like your auction this time won't be very successful. There might be a few people who will secretly interfere with it. Kaya sat before Jian Chen in the viewing box and said with some worry. Let's wait and see. Jian Chen remained calm instead. He was already a primordial realm expert, and he was not as weak as someone who had just reached the primordial realm. He was confident enough about facing all the problems that would occur. After all, even the strongest on the spatial battleship were infinite primes. It was impossible for chaotic primes to be here. Chapter 2399. The Darkness Clan. Seeing how confident Jian Chen was and that he feared nothing, Kaya immediately eased up. Indeed, Jian Chen had become even more powerful after his breakthrough, making him a peak expert on this spatial battleship. There was truly no need for him to be overly fearful here. This was because strength was the supreme law that decided everything. Before great strength, all schemes and plans would become irrelevant. At the same time, the most important members of the spatial battleship, the primordial realm experts who watched over the ship, also gathered together. They sat in the air and paid close attention to everything to do with the auction. The burly Fa Yun was among them. I never thought he would actually be at the primordial realm. It's a pity that he has purposefully masked himself, so we can't see through his strength. Fa Yun, did you manage to find out about that? Asked one of the old men. The burly Fa Yun, who sat there like a hill, shook his head gently. He said, I could not figure out his strength from the simple test before. However, I feel like he's no weaker than me. In other words, this person is a second heavenly layer infinite prime at the very least. Since he's also a primordial realm expert, it's probably impossible for you to buy the god artifact with a cheap price, Fa Yun. Fa Yun smiled mysteriously when he heard that. He said, it's not just me who wants the god artifact. The members of the large clans have already interfered with the entire procession secretly. They've controlled the auction center through the influence of their clans. The price of the god artifact won't be high. It's a perfect opportunity for me. However, I might have to borrow some 5-colored divine crystals from you all. Yeah. No matter how low the price is, it can't go overboard. It would not matter too much if he was just a god king with no background, but he's a primordial realm expert after all. The protectors of the spatial battleship were clearly cautious when they faced a fellow primordial realm expert. They did not want to offend him over something as small as a few 5-colored divine crystals. Now, the auction had formally begun. A beautiful young woman stood on the stage, hosting the auction by introducing each auction treasure in great detail, making the various cultivators below contend for it. The god artifact had been designated as the core item of the auction, so it was obviously placed at the end. As a result, the items auctioned first were items that did not interest primordial realm experts at all. They were only effective for godhood cultivators. However, even with that being the case, many godhood cultivators took part in the auction. It was a bustling scene. Jian Chen remained as calm as still water within his viewing box, sitting there and waiting patiently. He did not take part in the bids for any item because all of them had become useless to him now. A few other viewing boxes waited in a similar manner, without participating in the bidding wars. They had only come for one purpose, and that was for the low-quality god artifact that would appear. Finally, after 3 days, the auction approached its end. Everyone, what we will be auctioning next will be the core treasure of our auction this time, a low-quality god artifact. As the host said that, the entire auction center immediately fell quiet. At that moment, everyone held their breaths as burning interest filled their eyes. It's said that even many infinite primes don't possess a god artifact, which is more than enough to show just how precious a god artifact is. Its price can even be described as inestimable. It is truly an invaluable treasure, said the host excitedly from the stage. Her pleasant, chime-like voice was infectious, making all the godhood cultivators feel their blood flow faster. This god artifact can only be bid on with 5-colored divine crystals. Due to god artifacts being far too precious, setting a reserve price would be sullying their fame. As a result, the auction for this god artifact will be slightly different from the other items. There will be no reserve price. Only like this can it truly be regarded as a priceless treasure. We won't dirty the name of god artifacts. What? They only accept 5-colored divine crystals? Where are we supposed to find 5-colored divine crystals? This is far too unfair. Why is it restricted to 5-colored divine crystals? Can't we use supreme-grade divine crystals? With that, an uproar immediately broke out in the auction center. Not all the cultivators had contacted Jian Chen, so they obviously had no idea that only 5-colored divine crystal would be accepted as bids. Now that they had suddenly heard this, the cultivators who had prepared a large quantity of supreme-grade divine crystals and heavenly resources naturally struggled to accept the situation. Jian Chen opened his eyes slowly at that moment. His face sank slightly, and a sliver of coldness flashed through his eyes. He said, "No reserve price? Doesn't that mean that if no one bids for the god artifact, it'll be sold for an extremely low price in the end?" Kaya was also angered. She said furiously, "It must be the handiwork of those large clans. My worry is that the large clans have secretly reached an agreement with one another, sending only a single person to bid and buy the god artifact. The Darkness clan from the central region of the Jade Fluid Plain bids 10 5-colored divine crystals." At this moment, a call rang out from one of the viewing boxes. It came from a young man who directly declared his background. The Darkness clan of the Jade Fluid Plain is the last peak clan you would want to offend. I heard that the Darkness bloodline that has existed since the ancient times flows through the veins of the Darkness clan. The bloodline allows them to have a natural advantage in comprehending the laws of darkness, making them natural kings in the dark. The Darkness clan is a clan known for their assassins. They're very powerful. Muffled discussions immediately started in the surroundings of the auction. After the person from the Darkness clan had bid, no one else decided to contend. 10 5-colored divine crystals, Jian Chen murmured. As expected, the large clans had reached a secret agreement to not engage in a bidding war and prevent the price from rising. In the end, they wanted to purchase the god artifact at the lowest cost possible. Who the god artifact ended up with was not Jian Chen's concern. The Darkness clan has bid 10 5-colored divine crystals. Are there any higher prices? 10 5-colored divine crystals going once, said the auction host. Is this priceless god artifact really going to be purchased for 10 5-color divine crystals? 10 5-color divine crystals is equivalent to 10 million supreme quality divine crystals, which is 10 blocks. Buying a god artifact with 10 blocks of supreme quality divine crystals is ripping them off. God damn it. If it weren't for the fact that 5-color divine crystals can't be exchanged here, I can take out several dozen of them easily, and I'll be able to contend with a bid. Many godhood experts were filled with great pity. They found pity in how cheap the god artifact was. Originally, they thought the god artifact would be pushed up to a stunning price, but unexpectedly, someone only offered 10 5-colored divine crystals. The price was not even 1/100th of its real value. 10 5-colored divine crystals going twice. Is there anyone else who wants to bid? The host called out once again. Her voice was filled with powerlessness. The infinite primes gathered at the top of the spatial battleship all shook their heads. The Darkness clan is just too vicious. This is a god artifact, yet they only offered 10 5-colored divine crystals. That's basically sullying the value of a god artifact. The Darkness clan has indeed gone a little too far. The infinite primes all stated their thoughts. Chapter 2400. Under Attack in Outer Space. 1. Fa Yun sank into his thoughts. He furrowed his brows as the light in his eyes flickered. He seemed to be faced with an intense dilemma. He was a primordial realm expert, yet he still used a supreme quality saint artifact. Now, a god artifact had appeared, and it was a two-handed sword. Such a weapon suited him the most. He dreamed of possessing a suitable god artifact like this, so he had already made up his mind about obtaining it. If he wielded a god artifact, his strength would directly rise to a new level, allowing his battle prowess to increase dramatically. Moreover, he was already prepared to take part in the bidding war against the large clans. Although the large clans were renowned on the Jade Fluid Plane, he had the support of the Float Empire. He did not need to fear the descendants and juniors of those large clans because he served the Float Empire. This was because the peak organizations would never offend a primordial realm expert for a low-quality god artifact. However, he never expected the people to bid to be the Darkness clan. The Darkness clan ranked third on the Jade Fluid Plane, making them even more powerful than the Float Empire, which ranked fourth. Every single member of the clan was skilled with the laws of darkness, and all of them were masterful assassins. They were truly lawless on the Jade Fluid Plane and were a bad target to provoke. Fa Yun did not need to fear the juniors of other peak clans because he served the Float Empire, but that did not include the Darkness clan. Fa Yun, are you still going to bid for the god artifact? Asked a primordial realm companion beside him. Fa Yun remained silently. He was conflicted inside. The Darkness clan was not reasonable. As soon as he bid a price, he would be directly offending the Darkness clan. At this moment, a few people of various ages were gathered in the viewing box of the Darkness clan. Among them was a handsome young man who seemed to be in his 20s. The young man was the leader of the group. Even though he was only an early god king, his status was extremely great. He was the 13th son of the current patriarch of the Darkness clan, Anya Joyo. Anya Joyo's talent was clear since a young age, cultivating to early god king in just 5,000 years. He was the most resplendent star in the current Darkness clan and was treated with great significance. Young Master Joyo, looks like the god artifact is ours. Buying a low-quality god artifact with 10 5-colored divine crystals is glorious for young Master Joyo, said a middle-aged man. He smiled with great politeness from beside Anya Joyo. Anya Joyo remained calm. He showed no joy at all, as if this was nothing significant to him. He said coldly, "The people from the clans of the Jade Fluid Plane sure are obedient. Young Master Joyo will take command of our Darkness clan in the future." Even if these people were bolder, they would never offend young Master Joyo, said the middle-aged man, flattering the young man. With that, an old man seated there as well opened his eyes. He glanced at the middle-aged man in great disgust and said, "I'm afraid the owner of the god artifact won't just let it go like this." The eyes of Anya Joyo turned cold. He said, "So what? I've followed the rules of the auction and won it righteously. If he has any problems, he can come find me." Young Master Joyo, have you ever considered that we might have guessed wrong, and they're not really a god king but a primordial realm expert? asked the old man sternly. So what if he's a primordial realm expert? Primordial realm experts who remain in the high-class cabins are often the most useless primordial realm experts. If he has any problems, he's more than welcome to come and find me, Audiobook said arrogantly. He completely looked down on the seller. The old man sighed gently and thought, it would be fine if he's just a god king. We can just kill him in that case. However, if he's a primordial realm expert, offending him over a low-quality god artifact isn't a clever decision. Audiobook sneered and said, moreover, I'm certain that he won't have the courage. Even the organizations that rank first and second on the Jade Fluid Plane have to show our Darkness clan respect. However, as soon as Audiobook said that, a voice rang out. Hold on. This god artifact won't be sold for anything less than 5,005 colored divine crystals. Jian Chen had spoken from his viewing box. His voice was very calm. It rang across the entire auction center and clearly left no room for negotiation. How could he let his low-quality god artifact be bought for a low price of just 10 5-colored divine crystals? His voice immediately silenced the entire auction center. Even the host became stunned. Jian Chen's attitude was so firm that he even ignored the rules of the auction center. The price of any item would be decided through the auction. Even if the seller wanted to request a certain price, he would have to do it before the auction started and not now when the item was about to be sold. This completely broke the rules of the auction center. Audiobook's face sank in the viewing box of the Darkness clan. Coldness appeared in his eyes. I know this voice. It's the person who brought out the god artifact, said the middle-aged man who had been sucking up to the young master. Humph! Audiobook snorted coldly. He growled and said, my Darkness clan has already bid. Sir, you're raising the price on the spot, right after our Darkness clan has bid. Are you purposefully creating problems for our Darkness clan? Moreover, the auction center has its rules. I advise you to respect those rules. Rules? Are the rules of the auction center removing the reserve price and collaborating with others such that items can be sold at extremely low prices? If those are the rules of the auction center, is there even a need to follow them? Will anyone be bold enough to sell their items here in the future? Jian Chen said righteously. With that, a buzz immediately filled the auction center. All the people present discussed among themselves quietly. They all blamed the auction center. What was happening right now was clear to everyone. A precious god artifact had only reached 10 5-colored divine crystals, and no one else placed a bid. It was basically obvious that someone was pulling strings. Where was the fairness? 5,005 colored divine crystals is the reserve price for this god artifact. Everyone is welcome to continue bidding, Jian Chen said once again. He ignored the auction center and the Darkness clan, setting down his own rule. How bold of this person to not even fear the Darkness clan, murmured the middle-aged man from the Myriad Water Estate who had spoken to Jian Chen threateningly a few days ago. It's very likely that he's at the primordial realm, said the old man to Audiobook. Killing intent immediately filled Audiobook's eyes. Suddenly, he looked at the old man and said icily, go ask the spectral elder to take action. Anyone who ignores our Darkness clan cannot be permitted to live. Chapter 2401. Under Attack in Outer Space, 2. At this moment, a skinny black-robed old man sat in an extremely well-decorated cabin on the spatial battleship. The old man's appearance was nothing special. He was the type that would not catch anyone's attention at all in a crowd. He kept his presence concealed, so he seemed like an ordinary person. The skinny old man was the spectral elder that Audiobook referred to. He was an infinite prime of the Darkness clan and was here to escort Audiobook to the Star Brilliance plane. He was responsible for Audiobook's safety. Before the spectral elder stood the old man who accompanied Audiobook before. He passed on what Audiobook said word for word to the spectral elder. Joyo wants the person who's auctioning the god artifact dead? After learning the entire story, the spectral elder opened his eyes slowly. His eyes were gloomy, possessing no light or emotions at all. He seemed like someone who regularly roamed the night, constantly covering himself. Even now, it was very difficult for him to raise a lot of attention. At this moment, the spectral elder closed his eyes, and the powerful senses of his soul emanated to the top floor of the spatial battleship. Before long, he opened his eyes again and said slowly, the subjects of the Float Empire have already confirmed the person to be a primordial realm expert. Joyo has been a little too reckless with this matter. Spectral Elder, what should we do now? Asked the old man politely. Although Joyo has been rather reckless, he is the most impressive junior of the Darkness clan, and it's extremely likely for him to take over the clan. Since he wants this person dead, I'll do it, said the Spectral Elder indifferently. It was like assassinating primordial realm experts was a daily task for him. The people of the Darkness clan possessed an ancient darkness bloodline that made them natural kings of the dark. They were all assassins and were skilled at assassination. Even against opponents more powerful than themselves, they could use sudden sneak attacks to take their lives when their guards were lowered. Even if the sneak attack failed, they could use their natural advantage to hide in the darkness. They could become invisible and simply retreat. As a result, although the Darkness clan ranked third on the Jade Fluid Plane, even the organizations that ranked first and second did not want to provoke them without good reason. Perhaps the battle prowess of the people from the Darkness clan was not the greatest, but they were definitely the most difficult to deal with. Bang! At this moment, a heavy sound suddenly rang out and filled every inch of the spatial battleship. Afterwards, the entire spatial battleship shook violently. Caught off guard, many of the cultivators on the ship almost fell over. The many cultivators gathered in the auction center fell into disorder. Cries and curses constantly rang out. The ship shook far too severely. Moreover, since the crowd in the auction center had directed their focus elsewhere, many of them were caught off guard and collided with the people beside them, creating chaos there. Space beasts are attacking. Everyone, return to your respective cabins immediately. The powerful senses of the soul swept over as a great voice boomed through the heads of every single cultivator thunderously. God damn it, why have we come across space beasts again? How many waves has it been? We were warned beforehand when we encountered space beasts the last few times. Why did the reminder come so late? Grumbles rang out from various places on the spatial battleship. The cultivators gathered there all moved as quickly as they could, returning to their cabins in an orderly manner. Their journey through outer space had not been smooth. They had encountered attacks from space beasts many times, so everyone had grown accustomed to this. They did not find it strange. Boom! At this moment, another great rumble rang out. The spatial battleship endured an extremely violent attack, causing it to shake intensely. Compared to before, it shook countless times more vigorously. The spatial battleship seemed to be knocked away, and the inertia made it difficult for all the cultivators to stand firm. Many were thrown into the air and rammed against their cabins heavily. Among these people, a large number became bumped and bruised. Everyone, return to your cabins immediately and channel energy into the formation. The great voice rang out from the top floor again, booming through every corner of the spatial battleship. It was extremely stern. Every single spatial battleship was like a flying fortress. It was covered with formations that connected every region together. They were extremely powerful. Every cabin had a point where energy could be provided such that all the cultivators on board could provide energy to the formations of the spatial battleship to fend off outside attacks. However, they would not do that for every single attack from space beasts. The spatial battleship would only borrow the energy from all the cultivators when the spatial battleship itself was threatened, and it was difficult to fend off the situation outside using the ship alone. As a result, the hearts of all the cultivators on the spatial battleship sank when they heard that they needed to channel their energy. All of them had clearly realized that they had probably encountered a huge danger this time. The ongoing auction was forced to come to a halt as well. "Sir, please come to the deck." At the same time, an old voice rang out in Jian Chen's head. One of the protectors who served the Float Empire had communicated to him from the top floor. "Kaya, let's go to the deck and have a look." Meanwhile, Jian Chen remained extremely composed. Kaya nodded and left the viewing box with Jian Chen, arriving on the deck of the spatial battleship. It was possible to see the endless cosmos clearly from the deck. From this place, the stars would rapidly recede in the surroundings. However, the spatial battleship had become surrounded by many space beasts now. The space beasts were several dozen meters long. They were completely golden, and their shapes were extremely strange as well. They seemed like sharp swords. At this moment, many space beasts had gathered around the spatial battleship. They launched attacks wildly at the protective formations. The powerful formations of the spatial battleship constantly distorted and twisted under the fierce barrage of attacks. The power of the formations was rapidly depleting. At the same time, deafening booms rang out, shaking the entire ship violently. It was like the ship was getting knocked away. There were powerful existences equivalent to the primordial realm among the space beasts, and there were many of them. Golden sword beasts, limbless, sword-shaped, and extremely tough. They move through outer space at extremely great speeds and use the tip of their bodies to stab their opponents. The information regarding the species of space beast flashed through his mind the moment he saw them. He was no longer as ignorant as before. Even though he did not have any in-depth knowledge about the beasts that lived in outer space, he knew about them to a certain degree. Golden sword beasts form huge swarms. There will be many of them every time the swarm moves. Now that the spatial battleship has been surrounded by golden sword beasts, it'll be very difficult to break free if we don't kill them. The spatial battleship moves very quickly, but it's still difficult to outspeed primordial realm golden sword beasts. After all, they live in outer space and thrive here. Shaking them off won't be easy, Jianchen thought quickly and understood the situation that they faced. Sir, you must understand the situation we face right now as well. The formations on the spatial battleship cannot be maintained for too long. If we don't kill these golden sword beasts, everyone will be in trouble once the formations run out of energy. After all, the golden sword beasts possess astonishing speed in outer space, and there are even existences equivalent to us at the primordial realm. They can even outspeed the spatial battleship. Once we lose the spatial battleship, it'll be impossible for us to shake them off with our strength in outer space. An old voice rang out. The 6 people who served the Float Empire gathered together on another part of the deck. They were all stern as they made their way towards Jianchen. The one who spoke was a white-robed old man. He was ruddy and seemed rather sage-like. However, his eyebrows were as straight and sharp as swords, giving him a piercing presence. 9th Heavenly Layer Infinite Prime. Jianchen's heart leapt. He saw through the old man's strength. He was the most powerful person out of the 6 primordial realm experts, having reached peak Infinite Prime. The 5 other old men were much weaker compared to him. Clearly, they followed his lead. The Fa Yun that Jianchen encountered several days ago also happened to be among them. I am Jianpain. I hope that you can assist us in killing the golden sword beasts, continued the 9th Heavenly Layer Infinite Prime, requesting Jianchen's assistance sincerely. I can already sense 12 presences that belong to the primordial realm among the golden sword beasts. One of them is close to chaotic prime. It'll be extremely difficult for us few to kill them all, said Jianchen. Do not worry, sir. There are a few more people at the primordial realm on the ship. They've already come, Jianpain said. With that, another 2 people arrived on the deck as expected. They were a middle-aged man of medium stature and an extremely handsome young man. Including Jianchen, a total of 9 primordial realm experts had now gathered on the deck. 2 first heavenly layer infinite primes. Jianchen glanced past the 2 primordial realm experts and saw through their strengths with a single glance, causing him to shake his head secretly. It would be fine if the 2 first heavenly layer infinite primes possessed extraordinary battle prowess, but they would struggle to protect themselves if they were just regular infinite primes. This was because the battle prowess of golden sword beasts were able to overwhelm cultivators of the same level. As a result, only those with extraordinary battle prowess could handle one of these space beasts at the same level of cultivation. Boom! At this moment, the spatial battleship shook violently again. The 12 primordial realm golden sword beasts all launched powerful attacks. Under the leadership of the golden sword beast that had almost reached chaotic prime, a total of 12 primordial realm strikes landed on the same location of the spatial battleship. It was devastating. The combined might of the strikes had surpassed infinite prime and reached chaotic prime. The strikes immediately ripped open a great hole in the formations of the spatial battleship. The formations rapidly dimmed, and their defenses suddenly plummeted. I'll keep the most powerful golden sword beast busy. I'll leave the rest to you. Time was tight, so it was already too late for them to come up with any special arrangements. With that, Jianpain left the spatial battleship first, engaging in a battle with the strongest golden sword beast. Immediately, booms rang out, and the entire region distorted. Powerful sword qi engulfed the battlefield, ripping open gashes in space. Jianpain comprehended the laws of the sword. Not only was he the person with the greatest cultivation on the spatial battleship, but he was also the one with the most terrifying battle prowess. Against Jianpain was a golden sword beast that was thousands of meters long. It flickered with golden light and constantly stabbed and slashed at Jian Pain like a huge flying sword. It was extremely fast. At the same time, the 5 other primordial realm protectors from the Float Empire charged off at the spatial beasts. They each kept a primordial realm golden sword beast busy. Only Jian Chen and the other 2 first heavenly layer infinite primes remained on the spatial battleship now. Jian Chen remained calm, but the 2 other infinite primes were stern as if they were about to face a great enemy. Jian Chen, primordial realm golden sword beasts are basically covered in treasure. They're priceless, so don't forget to collect their corpses, said Kaya to remind him. She had spent a long period of time with him, and they had fought together many times as well. She understood Jian Chen's strength extremely well, so she did not worry about him at all. Brother, do not get blinded by greed. The golden sword beasts are very powerful. The slightest carelessness can even claim the lives of primordial realm experts. Surviving is what's important, said the middle-aged man nearby to Jian Chen. With that, he charged off into space, beginning a battle with the weakest primordial realm golden sword beast. In the end, the handsome young man glanced past Jian Chen indifferently. He said nothing and charged off the spatial battleship. Kaya, take care of yourself. Jian Chen reminded Kaya and stopped hesitating. With a single step, he charged towards the crack in the formation and arrived at the battlefield. The 8 primordial realm experts kept 8 golden sword beasts busy. Apart from the strongest Jian Pain, none of the others faced the golden sword beasts in open combat. They maneuvered their way around the beasts. Jian Pain engaged in an extremely intense battle to the death against the 9th heavenly layer infinite prime golden beast. There are 4 more primordial realm golden sword beasts left. 2 of them are at the 2nd heavenly layer, 1 is at the 3rd heavenly layer, and 1 is at the 6th heavenly layer. Jian Chen glanced past the 4 other golden sword beasts. The 4 golden sword beasts continued their wild attack at the spatial battleship. Due to their lesser intelligence, they did not know how to adapt to the situation. They only mindlessly followed the orders of their leader, attacking the formations of the spatial battleship. Even when cultivators brushed past them, they would completely ignore them as long as the orders from their leader were not completed yet. As a result, the spatial battleship would remain their target as long as they were not provoked. Even though these space beasts possessed an advantage in terms of battle prowess, they suffered from a fatal disadvantage of low intelligence. At this moment, a powerful sword intent suddenly appeared. It surged and seemed to be filled with a supreme bearing of the ways. It was like the ruler of the world had arrived, making everything in the surroundings yield to him. Even the supreme laws and order in the surroundings changed ever so slightly. Jian Chen struck out. He was clad in light as his bearing became abstruse, filled with a sense of immortal. His will engulfed a region of 100,000 kilometers. Wherever his will was present, all the powers below him became his own way, something that he could control. At that moment, Jian Chen seemed to rule over the world as he unleashed his bearing as a sword immortal. This was the ultimate way of the sword he had comprehended. At this moment, he slowly raised his right hand, and he pointed it above him. Immediately, all the godhood golden sword beasts within a range of 100,000 kilometers froze. In the next moment, heavy booms erupted. All the golden sword beasts there actually exploded. Golden body fragments and dazzling golden blood surged out like a flood. All of it gathered above Jian Chen, forming a huge sword completely condensed from the remains of the golden sword beasts. The golden sword beasts had been killed by Jian Chen's powerful will. Jian Chen comprehended the ultimate way of the sword, so he was a ruler that possessed the power to kill all things. His will had become the laws of the world there, forming his own domain. Within it, all existences and powers below him were under his control. A single thought was all he needed to decide life or death. In the blink of an eye, a range of 100,000 kilometers around Jian Chen emptied out. All the golden sword beasts there vanished. Under the control of his powerful will, they all gathered above his head, turning into a colossal sword forged from blood and flesh that shone with dazzling golden light. This was the first time Jian Chen had truly fought after becoming a sword immortal and comprehending the ultimate way of the sword. The might of his attack this time was world-shaking. It formed a terrifying scene such that all the primordial realm experts who were busy fighting their golden sword beasts looked over in shock. What powerful sword intent! What is this ability? It's so astonishing. Jian Pain, who fought against the 9th Heavenly Layer Golden Sword Beast, noticed the disturbance near Jian Chen as well. When he looked at the huge sword condensed from the remains of many Golden Sword Beasts above Jian Chen's head, he struggled to remain composed. This was because even he could not create such a grand scene. He actually killed so many Golden Sword Beasts in the blink of an eye. What is this secret technique? Originally, I thought he was only a regular primordial realm expert because he was hiding in the high-class cabins. I never thought he would be so powerful. The 5 other primordial realm experts of the Float Empire were shaken up as well. Even though the godhood Golden Sword Beasts were really nothing to them, it was still rather terrifying for someone to kill so many of them in a single moment. I'm probably not his opponent. I didn't offend him earlier, right? Fa Yun looked at Jian Chen, who stood in outer space like a sword. At this moment, he became filled with fear. Suddenly, there was a flash of intense white light. Sharp sword chi swept out. The huge sword condensed from the remains of the Golden Sword Beasts above Jian Chen's head suddenly shone with dazzling light. It was so bright that it illuminated the entire space like a sun. The huge sword suddenly fell with powerful sword chi. Its target was one of 2nd Heavenly Layer Infinite Prime Golden Sword Beasts attacking the spatial battleship. Even though the Golden Sword Beast had low intellect, it could still sense danger instinctively. Immediately, it stopped its attacks and turned around. It turned into a streak of golden light and stabbed towards Jian Chen. It was extremely fast, vanishing with a flash. However, no matter how fast it was unable to avoid Jian Chen's slash because his will had already locked onto it. Unless its strength exceeded Jian Chen's, it would not be able to avoid Jian Chen's attack. Boom! Jian Chen used the sword condensed from the remains of the beast's companions to slash the 2nd Heavenly Layer Infinite Prime Golden Sword Beast, producing a heavy sound. The 2nd Heavenly Layer Golden Sword Beast was blown away by the strike. A deep gash appeared on its body, and golden blood flowed out. Even though the Golden Sword Beast managed to survive, it was heavily injured by Jian Chen's attack. Its light dimmed. With just the first attack, Jian Chen had heavily injured an extremely tough Golden Sword Beast, a creature that was extremely difficult to deal with. Jian Chen stepped out and crossed through outer space in pursuit. His will enveloped the surroundings such that all the godhood Golden Sword Beasts within 100,000 kilometers of him exploded and died. They were all killed by his will. With just a few flashes, Jian Chen arrived before the heavily injured Golden Sword Beast. He extended his arm, and his hand shone with dazzling light. He pressed it against the colossal sword-shaped body of the Golden Sword Beast. Immediately, the Golden Sword Beast shook violently. The supreme power of the laws of the sword poured into its body through Jian Chen's hand, wreaking havoc inside its body. The Golden Sword Beast struggled wildly, but it was unable to break free from Jian Chen's hand no matter how it resisted. Its wounds became heavier and heavier, and its life force rapidly leaked away. It was becoming weaker and weaker. A few seconds later, the Golden Sword Beast stopped struggling. It lay in outer space, still. Its consciousness had been wiped out by Jian Chen. This was equivalent to a cultivator's soul shattering and dispersing. It was completely dead. How is that possible? He actually killed a 2nd Heavenly Layer Golden Sword Beast so quickly. How is this person so terrifying? All the primordial realm experts paid close attention to the details of the battlefield. They obviously saw Jian Chen kill the Golden Sword Beast, so they were all shocked. They felt emotional turmoil. I can sense that his cultivation isn't that much greater than the Golden Sword Beast, yet it was unable to fight back at all against him. It looks like his origins are not simple. It's extremely likely for him to be a figure from some ancient organization. Jian Pain glanced at Jian Chen deeply. At that moment, Jian Chen actually became mysterious to him. Whether it was Jian Chen's way of the sword or his battle prowess, they were both extremely astonishing. Neither of them was something a regular primordial realm expert could possess, so Jian Pain became suspicious about Jian Chen's origins. The black-robed spectral elder of the Darkness clan hid his presence and traces with a secret technique in another region of space. He seemed to have fused with the darkness, preventing anyone from noticing him. He stared at Jian Chen in the distance indifferently as he quietly paid attention to all of his actions. He was ready to assassinate Jian Chen. This person is extremely powerful. He's definitely not as simple as having just reached the primordial realm like I previously imagined. He probably has a great background. Do I kill him or not? Thought the spectral elder. Originally, he was prepared to kill Jian Chen. After all, regular primordial realm experts were nothing in his eyes. However, after he witnessed the strength Jian Chen displayed when he killed the second heavenly layer infinite prime golden sword beast, he ended up hesitating. Very few members of their darkness clan fought in open confrontations. What they were truly skilled with were assassinations, killing by delivering a fatal strike while the enemy was unaware. They would often be able to kill people even more powerful than themselves. As a result, the spectral elder did not fear Jian Chen. What really made him hesitate was Jian Chen's background and origins. He was afraid of offending a large organization and making trouble for the clan. He would take the risk and attack without any hesitation if there were any great treasures or profits on the line. However, this entire matter occurred because of a low-quality god artifact and Anya Joyo's impulsive actions. The spectral elder had to reconsider. Jian Chen had already begun stowing the golden sword beast's corpse away now. He did not care about the godhood golden sword beasts because they were not particularly valuable in his eyes. However, he needed to take note of the second heavenly layer infinite prime golden sword beast before him. The corpses of golden sword beasts were filled with treasure. Their hides were one of the best materials for forging weapons, and some formations required components of their bodies. Their blood was a crucial material in refining pills and possessed many other wondrous uses. As a matter of fact, the entire corpse of a golden sword beast could even be handed to a blacksmith and directly forged into a powerful weapon. If the golden sword beast before him was forged into a weapon, it would definitely be a god artifact. As a result, the corpse of the golden sword beast was a sizable sum of 5 colored divine crystals in Jian Chen's eyes. With a wave of his hand, the second heavenly layer infinite prime golden sword beast's corpse vanished from outer space. He had stowed it into his space ring. He did not pause after that. He struck out once again, targeting the golden sword beast at the same level as the one he just killed. Killing the weaker golden sword beasts was relatively easy for him. He could kill the third heavenly layer infinite prime golden sword beast if he fought it, but the fight would definitely take a lot longer. As a result, he specially targeted weaker opponents in hopes of killing the golden sword beasts as quickly as possible so that he could make their corpses his. Even though the corpse of a second heavenly layer golden sword beast is not worth as much as a forged god artifact, they're still worth 1,000 5-color divine crystals at the very least, thought Jian Chen. Killing intent flashed through his eyes as sword chi surged from him. He had already begun to battle the second golden sword beast. At the same time, the formations on the spatial battleship were ripped open. Many godhood golden sword beasts formed a golden flow, surging towards the spatial battleship wildly. The various godhood cultivators on the spatial battleship had come to face them in battle now. They blocked the golden sword beasts on the deck. In a single moment, red and golden blood merged together, covering the entire deck. Meanwhile, various killing formations on the spatial battleship were activated. The weaker cultivators remained in their cabins, providing energy to the spatial battleship. As a result, the entire ship flickered resplendently. Many of the golden sword beasts were torn to pieces as soon as they came in contact with the killing formations. Golden blood splattered everywhere. The bloodbath between the cultivators and the golden sword beasts had reached a high intensity. It was no longer a battle between primordial realm experts only. It was a full-blown battle now. The battle between the primordial realm experts in outer space was the most violent. Half of the primordial realm experts were injured now. Their battle prowess was more ordinary, so they completely lost the upper hand against the golden sword beasts at the same level of cultivation. Even if they fought golden sword beasts that were a heavenly layer lower, they would only barely gain the upper hand. Killing them would be basically impossible. The golden sword beasts were extremely tough. It would be very difficult to inflict fatal injuries to them unless one's strength completely overshadowed them or an extraordinarily powerful attack was used. Only Jian Pain managed to keep the 9th heavenly layer infinite prime golden sword beast suppressed with the offensive power of the laws of the sword he had comprehended, barely gaining the upper hand. But that was all. It was still impossible for Jian Pain to kill the 9th heavenly layer infinite prime golden sword beast. At this moment, a wondrous mental pulse was transmitted. It was filled with pain and grief. The second Heavenly Layer Infinite Prime Golden Sword Beast had been killed by Jian Chen as well with lightning speed. In just a short while, 2 of the 12 Primordial Realm Golden Sword Beasts had died to Jian Chen's hands. The death of the second Primordial Realm Golden Sword Beast finally angered the 9th Heavenly Layer Infinite Prime Golden Sword Beast. Immediately, it emitted a powerful mental pulse filled with anger. Golden Sword Beasts had no limbs or openings. They just seemed like golden swords. They were a unique beast that thrived in outer space, naturally born from special circumstances. As a result, they used their minds to communicate with one another. The 2 other Primordial Realm Golden Sword Beasts, one at the 3rd Heavenly Layer and one at the 6th Heavenly Layer, both stopped their attacks at the spatial battleship when they heard the furious mental pulse. It was like they had received new orders. They both turned around and pointed their tips at Jian Chen. They charged towards him with surging killing intent. Jian Chen became stern. He did not dare to be careless when he had to face both a 3rd and 6th Heavenly Layer Infinite Prime Golden Sword Beast simultaneously. He immediately became cautious. Whatever. I'll just use you to test my true strength, thought Jian Chen. He felt no fear. Instead, this fight roused his battle intent. His presence surged as he directly charged towards the 2 Golden Sword Beasts. Jian Chen's will from the ultimate way of the sword was only useful against power and existences that were weaker than him, such as the Godhood Golden Sword Beasts. Even if they were God Kings, he could kill them with a single thought. However, against beasts that were on the same level as him, the effectiveness of his will would be greatly reduced. Beasts as powerful as that had the ability to resist his will. Suddenly, the powers of the laws of the sword descended. 2 powerful strands of sword qi condensed on Jian Chen's 2 sides before shooting out as streaks of light. They ripped through space like bolts of lightning, hurtling towards the 2 Primordial Realm Golden Sword Beasts. The sword qi contained his comprehension of the ultimate way of the sword, so they were even more powerful and vicious than regular sword qi. Boom! With a deafening boom, the weaker Golden Sword Beast trembled and was actually pushed back by Jian Chen's sword qi. The stronger, 6th Heavenly Layer Infinite Prime Golden Sword Beast emerged mostly unaffected. It locked onto Jian Chen's presence, stabbing towards his soul with cold killing intent. It did not slow down at all. Jian Chen's face was cold, and his gaze was piercing. He gently swept his finger across the space before him. Immediately, the space where his fingertips passed was ripped open, forming a long crack. It was like invisible sword qi was hidden in the tip of his finger, possessing extremely astonishing power. In an instant, Jian Chen's finger collided with the Golden Sword Beast. At a closer glance, his finger remained 3 inches away from the Golden Sword Beast. However, this tiny distance seemed like a gaping chasm that neither of them could cross. The colossal Golden Sword Beast and the tip of Jian Chen's finger became locked in a stalemate, 3 inches apart from each other. Time seemed to come to a standstill at that moment. However, this stalemate only lasted for a single moment. The space between Jian Chen's finger and the Golden Sword Beast suddenly began to twist and tremble. It was like a terrifying power was being charged up. In the end, an extremely terrifying storm of energy suddenly erupted in that tiny space with a deafening boom. Jian Chen was immediately blown away by the energy. His dark, long hair flailed about from the storm of energy. Immediately, he clad himself with light from the laws of the sword to block the incoming energy. The 6th Heavenly Layer Infinite Prime Golden Sword Beast was the same as Jian Chen, having been pushed into a constant retreat by the storm of energy. Jian Chen and the Golden Sword Beast were basically perfectly matched in the clash this time. This 6th Heavenly Layer Infinite Prime Golden Sword Beast is truly astonishingly tough. It's almost on the level of low-quality god artifacts. I probably can't kill it without using the 9-star Sword of Heavenly Ways or the Profound Sword Qi, Jian Chen thought. Although his finger attack earlier did not seem special, it actually possessed his full strength. This was the most powerful attack he could unleash when only using his laws of the sword. However, he failed to injure the Golden Sword Beast with that attack. At the same time, the Golden Sword Beast failed to injure Jian Chen as well. What strength! He can clash with a 6th Heavenly Layer Infinite Prime Golden Sword Beast and emerge unscathed. Mid-Infinite Prime. This person's at the peak of Mid-Infinite Prime at the very least, or maybe even Late Infinite Prime. Everyone witnessed Jian Chen taking on the strike from the Golden Sword Beast straight on, which immediately caused the primordial realm experts who served the Float Empire to gasp. Their gazes towards Jian Chen underwent a drastic change. Jian Chen's ultimate way of the sword was just too powerful. They were unable to tell Jian Chen's exact cultivation level from his laws of the sword, but his battle prowess alone was enough to stun them all. With such strength, he was the strongest expert on the spatial battleship aside from Yi Jian Pain. To another side, the eyes of the spectral elder who had remained hidden the entire time narrowed slightly as well. The battle prowess that Jian Chen displayed just now surprised him as well. At that moment, the hesitant spectral elder made up his mind. He decided to give up on assassinating Jian Chen. However, just when the spectral elder was about to leave, a great sense of danger suddenly descended, immediately making his face change. From behind him, a lightning-fast streak of light directly approached. The sword chi was extremely fast. The reflection of the dazzling light rapidly expanded in the spectral elder's pupils. The sharp presence had already locked onto him. The spectral elder immediately felt like he could not dodge the attack. There was nowhere where he could go now that the sword chi had locked onto him. He could only take it on forcefully. What surprised the spectral elder the most was that before the sword chi even arrived, it managed to influence the space around him, turning it into a domain of sword chi in a single moment. The invisible sword chi seemed to be omnipresent, filling every inch of the space around him. Even the origin energy in outer space had been forcefully transformed into invisible sword chi. It was as if he would immediately face the attacks of the sword chi with the slightest movement. What powerful sword intent! The spectral elder shivered inside as he became extremely stern. A black sword immediately appeared in his hand. As a black streak of light, it silently attacked the incoming sword chi. The black sword was a low-quality god artifact. As a primordial realm expert who belonged to the Darkness clan that ranked third on the Jade Fluid Plane, he obviously possessed a god artifact. However, the presence of the god artifact was completely concealed, and none of it leaked out. It seemed to have fused with the darkness completely, stabbing out silently. It was very difficult to discover. Boom! With a heavy rumble, the spectral elder's god artifact collided with the incoming sword chi. He was immediately forced out of the darkness, becoming completely exposed. The strand of sword chi was extremely powerful. Although the spectral elder wielded a god artifact, he was unable to stop himself from being blown backwards after the clash. You can actually sense my existence? The spectral elder did not try to hide anymore. He hovered in outer space and stared at Jian Chen in the distance sternly. He was in emotional turmoil. Not only did his secret technique hide him in space, but it even covered all his traces and presence as well. Even opponents with greater cultivation than him would struggle to discover his existence. However, his secret technique was completely useless before Jian Chen. Moreover, he had been exposed from so far away, which was absolutely shocking. Jian Chen looked at the spectral elder and said, "You've been observing me secretly for so long. Was it just to watch me fight the golden sword beasts?" The spectral elder was taken aback when he heard that. Disbelief filled his face, and he cried out, Why, you actually found my presence long ago." Jian Chen took a single step and crossed the distance, arriving before the spectral elder instantly. He said emotionlessly, "You tailed me suspiciously. It looks like your Darkness clan wants to kill me." With that, Jian Chen's gaze gradually turned cold. However, this is not the Jade Fluid Plane. Your Darkness clan can act as they wish on the Jade Fluid Plane, but your Darkness clan has no power in outer space. Light flickered on Jian Chen's hand. With that, he directly sent a palm strike towards the spectral elder. The palm strike contained his supreme sword intent. When he struck out, all the power in the surroundings seemed to become his, turning into omnipresent, invisible sword chi. The spectral elder's face changed drastically. As he faced Jian Chen's palm strike, he felt like he had completely sunken into a domain of sword chi. Endless sword chi surged towards him from all directions, forming a cage that locked him in. Suddenly, the spectral elder bellowed out, and the laws of darkness surged from his body. The god artifact in his hand shone with dark light as well. He stabbed towards Jian Chen as hard as he could. Third heavenly layer infinite prime. Even if you wield a god artifact, you aren't my opponent, Jian Chen said coldly. His ultimate way of the sword was just too powerful, allowing him to possess battle prowess no weaker than a sixth heavenly layer infinite prime, and this was before he even used the 9-star sword of heavenly ways. In his eyes, the spectral elder was obviously not an opponent at the same level. Bang! With a grunt, the spectral elder was blown away. He immediately paled as bright red blood sprayed out from his mouth. His body had become covered with dense sword slashes, covering him with wounds. He became completely bloody. The sword wounds came from the domain. It was created by the omnipresent sword Qi. This person is actually so terrifying. That bastard Anya Joyo has screwed me over. The spectral elder was extremely shocked. His gaze towards Jian Chen even bore a sliver of fear. He absolutely resented Anya Joyo. Jian Chen was just too powerful, especially his terrifying way of the sword. Even when the spectral elder wielded a god artifact, he felt powerless inside. He could not fend off his opponent at all. After all, the god artifact could give him a heavenly layer's worth of strength at most, allowing him to possess the strength to fend off fourth heavenly layer infinite primes. Against Jian Chen, who was no weaker than the sixth heavenly layer, a very large difference still existed. This time will only be a small punishment. If this happens a second time, don't blame me for not showing mercy. Why don't you hurry up and go deal with the golden sword beasts? Jian Chen barked. He did not attack the spectral elder anymore. He turned around and charged towards the sixth heavenly layer infinite prime golden sword beast. The spectral elder, on the other hand, watched Jian Chen leave with mixed feelings. When he calmed down, he also charged towards a golden sword beast. He worked with one of the protectors of the spatial battleship against them. However, he maintained a relatively great distance from Jian Chen the entire time. Clearly, he still feared Jian Chen very much. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.